Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 22nd episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Amigakure. Despite the fact that he hadn't finished his shift yet, the AIM genin known as Yudachi was in a bar having some drinks. He had an average appearance, with spiky brown hair, black eyes, and a scar crossing his face being his only distinctive feature. His unprofessional attitude contributed in a big way to his status as genin despite pushing 30. Not that he would even admit it. Besides, today it was a rather slow day. Nothing would happen if he drank a little. Little did he know, that was going to change soon. "Hey there, handsome. Are you alone?" a soft female voice said. Yudachi was almost startled by the voice. He swore there was no other patron in the bar except him, yet that woman had sneaked upon him without him none the wiser. But those distressing thoughts were replaced the moment he laid his eyes on the new patron. The woman was tall, with pale white skin and long, wavy black hair, full lips and onyx eyes. She was wearing a red spaghetti dress that came down her knees. Her red high heels accentuated her height. "Cat got your tongue?" the woman asked, giggling a little. "And no," Yudachi replied, snapping himself from his stupor. "And yes, I'm alone." "Well, not anymore, now that you're here, hee. "So, you're a ninja, right?" the woman asked, looking at her forehead protector. "Indeed I am," Yudachi proudly replied. "I love ninjas," the woman replied in a sultry voice, licking her lips. "I love strong men in general, but ninjas are the strongest, don't you think?" "Indeed," the AIM genin enthusiastically agreed. "So, why don't we show me how strong you are?" the woman replied, caressing his facial scar with the tip of her finger. He didn't know how it happened, but Yudachi didn't care in the slightest. Rushing to one of the rooms for rent in the upper floor, thankfully all of them were vacant, the AIM genin and his conquest started to passionately kiss and make out, while they removed each other's clothes. He didn't want to think about how lucky he was. He was never very popular with the fairer sex, so having a woman so out of his league throwing herself at his feet was like a dream come true. That woman had everything to make her perfect. Her smooth skin, her wavy, elegant hair, a body most women would kill for, those thick, wet lips, her deep crimson Sharingan eyes, staring into his very soul. Wait, what? But by the time he realized of what had happened, it was too late. Yudachi felt his whole body succumbing to paralysis. He could still feel his limbs, but they refused to obey his brain's commands. The woman merely poked his forehead with a finger, and he fell backwards like a tree whose trunk had just been chopped, the bed behind him thankfully cushioning his fall. "You're under my genjutsu now. Resistance is futile," the woman said, and in a poof of smoke, she turned into a man. A Konoha ninja. He didn't need a bingo book to know that this ninja was Itachi Uchiha, one of Konoha's deadliest assets. "Judging by your expression, you know who I am," Itachi said, as he wiped his lips with the back of his hand. "So now that we know each other, let's get to business. Specifically, you're going to tell me who's the one in charge of this village. I know it's an Akatsuki, but I need to know which one. And no, there's no way you can't convince me that Hanzo the Salamander still holds the position. If I were you, I wouldn't do anything to push my patience." Yudachi cursed internally for letting himself fall for such an old trick. He knew that woman was dangerous the moment he displayed a level of stealth way above any civilian, but his hormones had silenced his instinct. That was one of the reasons Yudachi was still a genin. Konoha. Above the village of Konoha, 3 young girls soared the sky. While the first time they appeared surprised the shocked villagers from below, in time they got used to them. "Boy, I can't believe that I lived most of my life without knowing the wonders of flying," Hanabi gushed, before spinning a few times. "Wee. I know, right? Once you know the skies, the land suddenly stops being enough," Fu agreed, smiling at the youngest Hyuga. And the view from here is spectacular, Hinata added. And with the Tensigan, even more. So, do you see somebody? Somebody we know? Hanabi asked. Hinata nodded and smiled. Yes. Quite a few people. Some of our clansmen doing their daily tasks at the village. Some of my friends training. Her eyes drifted towards the Senju Park. Oh, there's Naruto-kun. Fu chuckled. Took you long enough to find him. It's not that hard. Naruto-kun has a very powerful chakra, and through my eyes finding him it's as easy as finding a bright star in the middle of the night, Hinata replied. She then noticed something odd about her boyfriend. He was just sitting alone in one of the park's benches. Naruto was somebody who tried to keep himself occupied at all times. If he wasn't with his friends or family, he was usually training. I think something's wrong with him. He looks kind of gloom. Fu-sensei, do you mind if I take a moment to talk to him? I'm not going to get in the way of love, the green-haired girl replied with a sincere smile, as she flew away followed by Hanabi. Hinata made her descend, before finally landing just a few steps in front of Naruto. The blonde naturally immediately took notice of his girlfriend. Hey, Naruto greeted her, in a rather subdued manner. Hello, Hinata greeted back. I was flying with Fu-sensei and Hanabi-chan, and I saw you from above. While I appreciate it, you don't have to interrupt your flight lessons just to tell me hi whenever you see me, Naruto replied, chuckling a little. I know, but greeting you is not the only reason I wanted to talk with you, Hinata replied, placing her hands on her hips. What are you doing here, Naruto-kun? I'm just enjoying the calm of the park. Is something wrong with it? Naruto innocently asked. Hinata let out a sigh, before crossing her arms over her chest. Naruto-kun, both you and I know that you don't do calm. You usually have too much pent-up energy for that. Unless there's something that's draining your energy. Something emotionally exhausting. Naruto chuckled again, except this time it sounded a bit sadder. I just can't hide anything from you, can I? Naruto asked, before moving aside and patting the space beside him. Hinata took the hint and sat beside him. Now, tell me what's wrong. Whatever happened, I'm sure it can be fixed. If not, you'll feel better after talking about it with someone. Okay. You see, yesterday afternoon, Shizunichan's squad returned from a mission. Rin was with them, Naruto began. Something happened to either of them? Hinata guessed, worry seeping into her voice. Naruto shook his head. All 5 were fine, thank goodness. Sadly, that's the only good part of their mission. You see, while we were in Taki, they were dispatched to Kyumo because the 9 tails had been seen there attacking a village near a river. Before Hinata could ask about such impossibility, Naruto explained about how the 4th Hokage sealed only half of the tailed beast into Naruto, and the other half into himself, which was released after Orochimaru reanimated him with the impure world resurrection. And turns out Obito took control of the other half, Naruto explained. Hinata's normally pale face turned even whiter. But that's horrible. If Obito decides to do the same with Konoha, or even other villages. And you know what? That's not even the worst part, Naruto added, much to Hinata's shock. The whole thing was just a ruse to make Kyumo deploy one of their Jinchuriki, and capture them when they were in the open. They succeeded. Hinata took her hands to her mouth. No wonder Naruto looked so gloom. I promised myself that I wouldn't let any other Jinchuriki fall prey of the Akatsuki, yet another one went down, with me not even aware, Naruto said, curling his hand into a fist. Hinata placed a hand on her boyfriend's shoulder. Naruto-kun, while what had happened is indeed terrible, it's not your fault. You can't save everybody. You're not almighty. I know, but I can't still feel guilty. Feel that I could have done more. If I wasn't busy helping rebuild Taki, maybe we could dash. Naruto-kun, no, Hinata firmly said, interrupting him. Don't think what could have been, or what could have you done. Focus on the future, and how to make things better. Don't torture yourself like that, it won't help anybody. There's also the fact I didn't even get to know her, Naruto replied, as a single tear fell down his cheek. Her name was Yujito ni. She was a jonin. Same age as Kurenai-sensei. And the Akatsuki will be slowly killing her by removing her tailed beast from within her as we speak. Naruto-kun, Hinata said. I'm not going to say not to grieve, because grieving it's human. But try not to feel guilty over her death. You know, I used to feel like that regarding my father's death. Had I been stronger, maybe I could have helped defend the clan from the Uchihas and make a difference. You were like 8 at the time. No offense, but I doubt you'd make a difference, Naruto told her. I know. But the emotional, irrational part of my mind insisted otherwise, Hinata replied. Just like it's happening with you. A shadow passed above them. Looking above, they saw it was Fu and Hanabi, doing another lap above Konoha. Thanks for talking with me, Haim. Even if it's not much, I do feel a little better now. Though you'd better return to your flight lesson. I'd feel horrible if I distracted you from your training. Hinata smiled. Don't worry. You can talk to me whenever you want, the Hyuga clan head said, before saying her boyfriend goodbye with a kiss to the cheeks, and returning to the sky with her instructor and younger sister. A few days later, Shizune and Shursue's apartment. While Itachi was out doing his mission, Shizune and Shursue had asked Sasuke to spend some days with them until his older brother returned. While they knew that Sasuke was more than capable of taking care of his own, his Jonin sensei had seen that the outcome of the mission had affected Sasuke far more than she had expected, and upon talking with her husband, they decided that it was better not to leave Sasuke to his own devices. The younger Uchiha had turned down the offer at first, but after much insisting, he reluctantly agreed. If there was something good that came out of that disastrous mission in the Land of Lightning was that Rin was able to recover Shursue's lost eye, and bring it back to Konoha. After that, Shizune wasted no time in placing her husband's lost eye in his empty eye socket. Naturally, Shursue's mood improved dramatically the next few days, the opposite of his younger cousin. Man, it feels so good not to rely on the Sharingan for depth perception anymore, the formerly one-eyed man happily claimed. But much to Sasuke's chagrin, it seemed like Shursue's good mood was contagious. Or, more specifically, he wanted to infect Sasuke with his newfound cheerfulness and optimism, not that his cousin did not have obnoxious amounts of such traits before. And naturally, his wife was on his side, pressuring Sasuke to open up about his feelings. Sasuke, I know what you're feeling. I have failed my own share of missions in my life, and the guilt is unavoidable, Shursue insisted. And these cases, the best you can do is open up and talk to other people about it. I know that you're not the most extroverted person out there, but please make an effort. Yes, Sasuke. I was there. You gave your all in the mission, like you usually do. You have nothing to be ashamed of, Shizune continued. You're wrong, sensei, Sasuke replied. I didn't give my all. I could have done better, but I was unable to. Shursue, Sasuke called his cousin, before locking eyes with him. You knew there's a way to overcome the traumatic flashbacks every time you use the Mangekyo Sharingan, right? Shursue's good mood immediately evaporated, replaced by a similar gloom that plagued Sasuke. Obito told you, didn't he? Shursue dejectedly asked. Yes, but that's irrelevant. The actual question is why neither Itachi nor you told me if you knew about it, Sasuke asked. First of all, tell me exactly what Obito told you, Shursue requested. Sasuke complied, and told the oldest Uchiha about how learning to detach yourself from the guilt of the moment that awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan ends up pushing the flashbacks away. And can you blame me for not wanting you to know that? Shursue asked. I can blame you for keeping information hidden from me, Sasuke stated. I know it's a big price to pay, but had I complete control over the Mangekyo Sharingan, maybe this mission would have been a success. No mission is worth you losing away your humanity, Sasuke-kun, Shizune intervened. Never forget that. Sasuke, trust me, you don't want to be like Obito. You might start with good intentions, but in the end you'll end up following the same dark road as him, Shisui seriously stated. That doesn't change that this is not the first time you and Itachi withhold information from me regarding the Sharingan, Sasuke spat back at him. Do you trust me that little? Both Shisui and Shizune flinched upon hearing such an accusatory question. And deep down, Shisui had to admit there was a degree of truth there. He and Itachi had the best intentions. They didn't want Sasuke to be corrupted by the darkness that plagued the Uchiha clan. The coup d'état had been a real eye-opener. But by not trusting Sasuke and keeping him in the dark, they were risking losing him. I admit you're right, Sasuke, Shisui told him. That's why I'm going to share you something Obito didn't tell you. There is a way to overcome the flashbacks that does not involve total detachment from your feelings. And you tell me that now? Sasuke asked, still indignant. I didn't tell you because I thought that you knowing it wouldn't do you no good. I was afraid you'd misunderstood what I wanted to say and do something stupid, Shisui explained. But you know what? It wasn't my place to decide that. You deserve to know it, and whatever you do afterwards with such knowledge, it will be on you. Sasuke crossed his arms. All right then. I'm all ears. Shisui opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again. He opened it again, but he didn't speak. He muttered something about this being far more complicated to put into words than he thought, before his eyes suddenly lit up, as if an idea dawned upon him. Shizune, this week I didn't pay Shinichi-san a visit, did I? Shisui asked his wife. Unless you did it when I was out, then no, you didn't, Shizune replied. All right then, I just had an idea. Sasuke, you're coming with me to visit an old acquaintance of mine, Shisui enthusiastically said, standing up. Before you ask, yes, it has to do with the topic at hand. Knowing about Shinichi-san will help you with your problems. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. His doubtfulness was evident in his face, but decided to comply. All right then, cousin. I'm seriously hoping this isn't some meaningless distraction or ruse to keep the truth from me, Sasuke warned in a rather icy tone. I'll swear on my life if it makes you feels better. Now come on. Training Ground 7 as usual. Kakashi's animal squad was training in their regular training ground whenever they didn't have any missions. What wasn't usual, however, was the intensity of the training that they were doing. Seeing the sheer power of Naruto and Fu, as well as their fight against the Akatsuki, made them realize that while they were stronger than the average Chunin, they weren't strong enough to deal with the threat that was Akatsuki. And thus, they asked Kakashi to give them a more intense training. If that's what you want, I have no problem with it. Actually, I praise your desire to get better, the silver-haired Jonin had said. However, I don't want to hear you complain if I'm too hard on you. Killing or permanently crippling you are the only lines I won't cross for obvious reasons. And boy, did the copy ninja stay true to his word. At first sight there was nothing that made you think Kakashi was anything out of the ordinary. His usually bored expression, relaxed pose and nonchalant attitude didn't raise any danger flags. But upon seeing him fighting, one could appreciate the saying, appearances are deceiving. And while his students had seen him fighting at full power against enemies, it wasn't the same as having to fight him themselves. Aburame's secret art, Insect Tornado. A swarm of beetles emerged from under Shino's sleeves, and flew towards Kakashi with an angry buzz. Kakashi made several hand seals while quickly jumped backwards. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Before Kakashi could exhale the fireball, Shino was already commanding his hive to move aside, in order to dodge the incoming fiery missile. However, the fireball still managed to kill many of his insects with residual heat. Jumping aside, the Aburame dodged the fire projectile. Now's my chance. Tamaki thought, rushing towards Kakashi, before leaping at him with her claws facing forward. Cross slash. Despite appearing wide open, Kakashi easily dodged the cat Kunoichi's assault. Undeterred, Tamaki continued her assault, delivering vicious swipes that the copy ninja easily dodged. Damn Sharingan! Tamaki cursed. Kakashi then closed his left eye, and continued dodging her attacks just as easily. As you can see, no, it's not the Sharingan. You're too slow, and your technique lacks finesse, Kakashi calmly but sternly said, before grabbing Tamaki by her wrists, and hurled her against a tree. Wiping his hands, he started to look around. And where the other could be? The ground briefly shook for a second. Most people would have sensed it, but Kakashi wasn't most people. His hand was coated in electricity the moment Kiba burst from underground. Got Y dash, and there he is, Kakashi happily said, as he impaled the Inuzuka runt through the heart with his signature ability. Lightning Blade. After piercing his chest, Kiba crumbled into many smaller rocks, as the real Kiba and Akamaru were leaping at Kakashi from behind. Though as this was happening, Kakashi's hands were flying through seals at an inhuman speed. Wind release, great breakthrough. Turning around, Kakashi blew a powerful wind blast at the attacking ninja and dog, pushing them backwards. They immediately got back on their feet, but rather than attacking, Kiba shot his sensei an indignant look. What the hell, man, a lightning blade? What if that was the real me? You would have killed me. Oh, you worry too much, Kiba, Kakashi replied in an infuriating cheerful tone, giving him his trademark eye smile. I was 100% sure that wasn't the real you. I know your fighting style too well to let you make me think you would attack from underground, and without Akamaru. So you're saying I'm too predictable, an unamused Kiba replied, frowned. No, of course not. Kakashi cheerfully reassured. Actually yes, that's what I'm saying. The only way you could be more predictable was if you told me beforehand what you were going to do. Something your movements already tell me. Kakashi-sensei has flat out told you an area of your fighting style that needs improvement, Shino interjected. You should take his advice as it is rather than an insult. Actually, that goes for all of you, Kakashi pointed out. All of you seem to be pigeonholed into a very tight fighting style, and your enemies will catch wind of that. You need to find a way to improve your styles and change them to adapt to multiple situations. Though I admit that this is in part my fault for not training you as good as I could. But make sure such thing is about to change. Hello, a new voice said. The members of the animal squad turned around, and saw Rin Noera, looking a little bashful, walking towards them. Tamaki welcomed her with a bright smile. Rin, hello, the cat Kunoichi happily greeted her. Did you come here to train with us? That would be awesome. Kiba agreed, with Akamaru barking in agreement. I'm afraid I didn't came here for training, Rin said, rubbing her arm a little. If I'm interrupting your training, I can come in another moment. It's okay, we were going to take a break, Kakashi stated. So, what can we do for you? Rin sighed a little, and swallowed. This was going to be a bit hard to tell. Kakashi, during my latest mission, I fought against Obito, Rin revealed. Even within his mask, everybody appreciated how Kakashi's mood changed, despite his best efforts to maintain a stoic expression. Go on, he said. During the fight, Sasuke-san discovered how his intangibility power works, Rin began. His Mangekyo Sharingan is linked to a pocket dimension. He can send and release objects, up to people, inside. He can also send parts of his body to that dimension in order to avoid damage, that's how he turns intangible. That's a very valuable information to have, Tamaki praised. Sasuke-kun did a good job, as usual. I think I'm starting to see what you're going to say next, Kakashi guessed. Rin nodded. I know you have a Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito told me he awakened his when he saw you killing me with your Chidori. Meaning that you must have awakened it as well. Kakashi remained silent, before he let out a sigh. Yes, you're right. I have a Mangekyo Sharingan. But if Obito told you about it, then you probably know why I don't use it much. Besides the fact that it leaves me pretty drained due to my lack of Six Paths chakra. Yes, but you have Obito's other eye. Logic says that your Mangekyo Sharingan should be linked to that pocket dimension as well. If we use it to our advantage, we might be able to counter his biggest trump card, Rin insisted. I'm trying to find holes in that reasoning, Kakashi said, as he rubbed the back of his head. But I don't see any. You don't want to use that power, don't you? Rin asked. You don't want to relive my death like that. I try to tell myself that you're alive and well, and that your death is the equivalent of a bad dream, but it's not enough. The pain, the anguish, it still feels so real, Kakashi started. But if there's a chance I can help bring Obito down, I'll do it. I'm glad to hear it, Rin smiled. Though, I want you to know that I know this is painful, and I wouldn't ask you to do it if there were other options. It's okay, I'm old enough to know the kind of stuff this job entails, Kakashi replied. And given that you literally died for the sake of the village, how could I refuse? Downtown Konoha. Sasuke followed Shisui through the crowded streets of Konoha. Hands buried inside his pockets, the younger Uchiha had a sullen expression, trying to figure out how this mysterious friend of Shisui was going to be of any help with their matter at hand, if he wasn't an Uchiha. You know Sasuke, since you know me, you probably think I'm a pretty cool guy, Shisui began, his cheerful attitude being the complete opposite to Sasuke's. Someone charismatic, kind, friendly, skilled, not to mention humble, Sasuke deadpanned, as he rolled his eyes. Yes, that too, Shisui happily agreed, oblivious to Sasuke's sarcasm. Or pretending to be oblivious, with Shisui it was hard to tell. The thing is, I wasn't always like that, Shisui admitted. Sasuke noticed his voice suddenly losing its usual warmth. When I was younger, I was arrogant and full of myself. Basically, a standard Uchiha. Even more, given that people praised me for my skills, calling me a genius among a clan of geniuses. What does that have to do with anything? An annoyed Sasuke asked. You'll see, be patient, Shisui replied. Anyway, back when I was a brat, Minato Namikaze was a rising star among the Jonin. The fact that he came from a civilian family inspired many kids of similar backgrounds to become a ninja and join the academy. Among them was a boy called Shuinichi. And just like the Yellow Flash, he was incredibly gifted for a civilian kid. Naturally, the two of us butted heads many times and became heated rivals. We competed for the spot of Rookie of the Year, which eventually went to him. Neither him nor the other Uchihas let me live that down. As Shisui talked, Sasuke realized that they were leaving through urban area of Konoha, and heading somewhere else. Shisui, are you sure this is the right way? Sasuke asked. Shisui ignored Sasuke's question and continued talking about his childhood. Even after graduating and being assigned to different teams, we still tried to outdo the other. Sometimes, even at the cost of the mission. Must say, I'm not especially proud of my attitude back then, Shisui admitted, chuckling a little while rubbing the back of his head. Anyway, after the Third Ninja War ended, being two of the strongest Chunin Konoha had, the two of us were dispatched to deal with some Kyumo ninjas that were still giving us some trouble in the border. Naturally, we were going to use this mission as another opportunity to outdo the other. We located the enemy ninjas and engaged them. However, things didn't go as planned. Thanks to faulty information, there was an ANBU captain among the Kyumo ninjas. Even if going back and return with reinforcements would be the most sensible course of action, we continued the fight. Shuinichi called dibs on the captain while I dealt with the underlings. However, despite his talent and skill, an ANBU captain was too much for Shuinichi. He was quickly overwhelmed, and called for my help. I decided to drag my fight on in order to make him suffer a little and teach him some humility, as if I was any better. I could have ended my fight much quicker and provide him with help. Between the two of us, we could have defeated that captain. Sasuke then saw that they were heading towards the Konoha cemetery. Shinichi was killed before I could lend him my help, Shursui finished, his voice now completely devoid of all his usual warmth and joviality. I could have helped him, and I didn't. It wasn't that Kumo Anbu who killed him, but me, even if indirectly. That revelation, and the subsequent guilt and despair, made me awake the Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke was left speechless. He was completely unaware such side of his obnoxiously cheerful cousin even existed. He was really good at masking his emotions. Guess it was a proof that not everything is what it seems and that a ninja must learn to see through deception. The cemetery was mostly empty. Sasuke followed Shursui until he stopped in front of a grave he guessed was that of Shuinichi. The name on the tombstone confirmed it. I try to pay Shuinichi a visit every week, at the very least. To never let myself forget what my haughtiness caused. It's a good thing his family doesn't come here often. As you can imagine, they aren't exactly fond of me, and the Uchiha insurrection didn't make things any better, Shursui sadly chuckled. The Uchiha insurrection. Even my failure to stop that, it's only second to this one. How can you say that? Not to disrespect Shuinichi's memory, but he was just one person. Lots of people died in the insurrection, and its effects are still felt today, Sasuke stated. Because, even if I fail, I did try my all in stopping it, Shursui replied. His fist clenched. Sasuke, life is paved with failures, and nothing will change that. But as long as we give our all, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Now you're sounding like Naruto, Sasuke pointed out, sounding mildly annoyed. Shursui shrugged. I'm married to his older sister, he nonchalantly said, before his mood turned somber again. But with Shuinichi, I didn't. I let my arrogance and jealousy get the better of me, and somebody else paid the price. That's why, from that moment onwards, I vowed to be not only the best ninja I could be, but also the best person. It wasn't easy, but I was able to change myself for the better. And to this day, I use the power his death awakened in order to save as many lives as possible. And by honoring him, and being the best I can be as both as a ninja and as an individual, over time, the flashbacks I suffered from using the Mangekyo Sharingan stopped. Naturally, this did draw Sasuke's attention. So that's it? That's what I have to do? Be a better person? Shursui shook his head. You're not getting it, Sasuke. Not the part about being a better person, please always strive for that. In order to overcome the flashbacks, you need to learn to forgive yourself. But how I can do that? Sasuke asked. I asked Naruto and his family for forgiveness. They said there was nothing to forgive and that they understood why I did that. But it's not enough. The guilt persists. The pain persists. I'm afraid I can't help you with that, Sasuke. At least not more than what I already did. While we had help and support from others, both Itachi and I had to walk this road on our own. And so you will have to find yourself what you have to do until you can forgive yourself, Shursui finished. I'm sorry if this wasn't the answer you were looking for. Though I can still tell you this, do you know what they say about a broken vase? Yes. That even if you glue the pieces together, the cracks will always be there, to remind us that there was a time it was broken, Sasuke replied. Shursui nodded. True. But what most people don't realize is that, if properly glued, the vase can still be used as before, cracks and all. You might have some cracks, Sasuke. But that doesn't make you any worse person or ninja. Never forget that. Thank you, Shursui, Sasuke replied, sounding genuinely touched. Thank you for telling me this. Shursui smiled. Don't sweat it. Unknown location. In a dark place full of light blue blocks of varying sizes, a spiraling portal opened. From it, Kakashi Hatake came out. He briefly inspected his surroundings, there wasn't much of interest to see, and nodded. So, this is where I send all that stuff with the Kamui, Kakashi said, before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Another spiraling portal opened, this time, it was Kakashi again, accompanied by Rin Noera. And you never thought in sending a clone until now? An incredulous Rin asked, as her feet touched a large concrete platform. Or what she thought was concrete. Truth be told, I was too afraid to know what this place could be, Kakashi admitted. So, is this the place you were when Obito abducted you with his Kamui? Yeah, pretty much, Rin confirmed. She then looked around, just to be extra sure. Well, maybe the blocks were arranged in a different way, but it was pretty much the same. I see. So if I send somebody here, or just myself, we'd be able to hit Obito whenever he tries to use his intangibility, Kakashi said. Yeah, that's the idea, Rin replied. Well thought, Kakashi praised. The problem is, though, that we don't know when Obito is going to appear. Especially if he realizes that I'm the key to counter his ability. Yes. Last time he personally took part in the Jinchuriki's capture, but from what it appears it's never the same. Next time they may send other Akatsuki to do the job, Rin stated. In that case, we'll have to guess when Obito will show up again, Kakashi said. I have a good idea about that. From what you told me, he's been trying to abduct the other half of the Nine Tails 3 times in the past. After so many failures, it had to be something personal for him. Not to mention that with the other half under his control, he might feel emboldened, Rin explained. So Obito will come for Naruto, Kakashi replied, with a sigh. Guess we'll have to keep our eyes open when that happens. Indeed, Rin agreed, then she looked around, before rubbing her arms. This place gives me the creeps. I think we tested it enough. Can you get us out of here? EUC, Kakashi began, as he sheepishly smiled from under his mask, while rubbing the back of his head. I know how to send things into this dimension, but I haven't tried taking them out. Kakashi. Rin yelled. Kidding, kidding. I know what to do. Kakashi replied, holding his hands in defense. I think. Training Ground 9 in the medical squad's usual training ground, a sparring was taking place between 2 members of the Uzumaki clan. Earth release, mud trap. The grass around Karen started to change into mud. The bespectacled Kunoichi made several backflips in order to avoid the spreading mud, as well as putting some distance between herself and her opponent. You know, you won't do anything by dodging alone, Naruto taunted with a smirk of superiority. Karen replied to Naruto's smirk with one of her own. Good thing these element is so good for ranged attacks, Karen said, as she pulled out several shuriken. Wind release, vacuum wave. Karen tossed the shuriken forward, which were covered in an aura of wind that made them both spin and fly much faster, while increasing their range. The Uzumaki cousins have been teaching each other the basics of wind and earth release, elements each one was expert and the other wanted to learn. In Naruto's case, earth release was the only element he had to master, while Karen wanted to learn wind in order to have a counter against earth's natural weakness, lightning, as well as helping herself into obtaining a promotion. After that, they had the idea of hosting sparring matches in which Naruto and Karen were limited to earth and wind respectively, in what ninjutsu entailed, so they could ease themselves into the new elements. So far, it worked really well and helped them master what they had learned from each other. Not bad, Nei-chan, not bad, Naruto praised, as his hands formed hand seals in return, before slamming them into the ground. Earth release, earth-style wall. A wall of earth started to rise in front of Naruto. But much to his horror, it stopped midway. The hell? The blonde asked indignantly, before seeing the wind-enhanced shuriken flying at him. Oh shit! The steel stars hit their mark, and if Naruto didn't have a body replacement prepared in advance, he could have suffered serious injuries. I think I take this round, Karen cheered, pumping her fist into the air. I think I'm better at wind than you're at earth. Of course, the real Naruto said, as he emerged from behind a group of trees. The more elements you master, the harder it becomes. Anyway, I feel like taking a break. How about you? Sure, Karen replied. Both Uzumaki decided to rest under the shade of a large tree, setting into a comfortable silence. However, as they rested, thoughts started to invade Karen's head. Thoughts she has been trying to silence or push away, but were now coming back. Especially since she was now in her cousin's presence. She couldn't take it anymore, and decided it was time to talk about it. Plus Naruto was the ideal person to discuss such topic. "Ni-san?" Karen asked. "Yes?" Naruto replied. "You know my latest mission, right?" Karen asked, stammering a little. Through her chakra sense, Karen could feel how Naruto's mood dampened. She didn't want to poke such fresh wounds, but it was inevitable. "Yeah. What about it?" Naruto asked, trying to keep a neutral tone. "You see, since you were in Taki and we couldn't afford waiting for you to get back, Hokage-sama and Shizen-sensei planned to use me as the vessel of the other half of the Nine Tails," Karen stated. "I didn't know that," Naruto admitted. "And as you can guess, we failed," Karen told him. Naruto nodded. "Don't worry. Nobody expected you to win against somebody that commands a tailed beast." "That's not the problem," Karen said, her lips quivering a little. She could sense Naruto's confusion. "Despite our defeat and everything that it entailed, I was glad we failed." "What?" Naruto shouted. She feared this reaction. "Explain." "I was afraid of becoming a Jinchuriki." So afraid," Karen confessed, trying to hold back her tears. Albeit they weren't tears of fear anymore, but of shame. And not just because of the thought of having a demonic beast living inside my body. When I saw Obito taking Yujito away, I thought, that could have been me. All Jinchuriki have massive targets painted in their backs, and the idea of being the prey of a dangerous criminal organization made me blood freeze of just thinking about it. Naruto didn't say anything, and let Karen's words carefully sink in. He had to admit the redhead was rather brave for showing such a vulnerable side of her, though on the other side he couldn't help but feel little sympathy for her apparent cowardice. "You must think I'm a coward," Karen continued, as if reading his mind. "But I just don't want to go to that life again. I can't." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "I think I already told you about my childhood. Until I was 8, I never knew a permanent home. It was always going from one place to another, hiding our identities, not being able to trust any strangers, because so many people wanted both me and my mom for our genetic abilities. When we settled in Konoha, I thought that we finally left that life behind. But then, when we discussed the possibility of becoming a Jinchuriki, I realized the implications besides the obvious one," Karen explained, as tears streamed down her face. She removed her glasses in order to rub her eyes. "Sorry, given what you are, you probably don't think too high of me right now." "No, it's okay. I don't have the same perspective since I've been a Jinchuriki literally from the day I was born," Naruto replied. "This life is all what I know, so I can't tell what a normal person must feel when he or she is forced to become like me. And I don't blame you nor anybody else for being afraid. Still, I can't help but feel awful for letting myself be so cowardly. I'm a ninja, for Kami's sake. I should be able to make a sacrifice for the village that makes so much for both me and my mom." Karen protested, as her fist hit the grass. "But you were willing to become the other half's container, right?" Naruto asked. "Shizun told me what happened. She was going to seal him inside you, when he suddenly woke up and everything went to hell." "Yeah, but no buts," Naruto firmly interrupted. "Being afraid in your situation was natural. Yet you managed to keep that fear under wraps and do what was necessary. Don't blame yourself for the failure of that mission. But if you feel that's not enough, then listen to me. You might be one of the few people on Earth who can contain the Nine Tails, but you're under no obligation to do so. Hell, you don't even need to be a ninja to begin with. Given your background, it's very selfless of you to take such path," Naruto praised. "My mom said it's important we show appreciation for the village that took us in. Plus being a ninja sounded kind of cool, the redhead admitted. See? There you have. You're not selfish nor coward. It's natural to feel overwhelmed under certain circumstances, Naruto said. If you say so, she replied, before smiling a little. Thank you for telling me this. Anytime, Naruto said, smiling back. Undisclosed location. That night Kabuto was sitting on a large tree branch, his back resting against the trunk. Unable to stifle it, a yawn escaped his mouth. He hated to do these kind of errands. At first he always felt a bit uneasy due to the other part's potential treachery. There were many sound ninjas hidden around in case of foul play. But after some time, he always ended up boring. I don't know why we even bother with scheduling an hour if these guys are always late, the silver-haired medic Nin complained, and he looked up at the night sky. Until he heard it. The sound of leaves rustling. His reflexes kicked in, jumping to his feet as his hand pulled a kunai from one of his weapon holsters, just when an individual landed in front of him. A figure wearing a black hooded cloak that hid his whole body, while his face was obscured by a mask similar to those worn by Konoha Zanbu. Sorry for being late, the masked figure said, revealing her feminine voice. Kabuto Yakushi, I presume. You guess right, the bespectacled ninja replied. You're not the usual contact. I'm new, the woman replied, as if that explained everything. If that's the case, then you'll know the password, Kabuto told her in a challenging tone. White orchids. 3 birds flying above an icy mountain. Red sunset in the sea, the woman stated. Kabuto couldn't help but smile. Password correct. You're too trusting. I could have killed the actual messenger and forced them to give me the password, the masked woman replied. Kabuto couldn't help but chuckle. Trust me, I find that very unlikely. Anyway, what news do you have pertaining the Jinchuriki? The Jinchuriki of the 7 tails, Fu, remains in Konoha. While she's allowed plenty of freedom, and the village does little to hide her presence, neither her nor those close to her suspect a team of Konoha Anbu watching every one of her moves, the woman began. Kabuto nodded. As expected. Jiraiya-sama is no fool. Capturing her will much harder this time around. But knowing her location is still valuable intel. What else? You're going to like this. Apparently, Kirigakure Ninja had finally located Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the 6 tails, the woman stated. Kabuto couldn't help but smile at such good news. That's a very valuable information, indeed. That's not all. We know they send a letter for Konoha asking for help. Apparently, they want to borrow the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails to get close to Utakata and convince him to return to the safety of Kiri. So Akatsuki has the chance of capturing 2 Jinchuriki at once. Excellent. Any other news on the other Jinchuriki? Kabuto asked. The masked woman shook her head. We found the Jinchuriki of the 8 tails has vanished. We suspect that after Yujito's abduction, the Raikage sent him to a hidden refuge in order to keep him safe, the woman continued. We still don't know where the Jinchuriki of the 4 tails is. Oh well, guess it was too much to ask. Still, information on Utakata was vital to obtain, so thank you for that, Kabuto said, making a slight head bow. If there's nothing else to discuss, I think our meeting should come to an end, the woman nodded, silently agreeing, and both she and the Oto ninja left in opposite directions. Omake, Itachi's torture methods. After the effect of the paralytic genjutsu disappeared, Itachi tied Yudachi to a chair. The aim genin, however, didn't show any hints of being intimidated by the Konoha Jonin. I don't know what you plan to do with me, Yudachi defiantly said. But it won't work. You won't get any information from me. That's what everybody says, until they find out what I plan to do. Itachi's Sharingan changed shape to a curved, triple-bladed shuriken against a red background. Tsukuyami. The 2 ninja were transported to a nightmarish, red and black landscape, which would fit into the popular description of hell. Suddenly, a large, flat-screen TV appeared in front of the AIM genin. The TV turned itself on and started to play something. Let your torture begin. Do you recognize this series? Itachi asked his prisoner. Yeah, it's Naruto. The shonen about a young ninja who wants to prove everybody his worth. What, you plan to use this series to torture me? Yudachi asked, laughing a little. Yeah, I know this series has some bad rep, but I think it's pretty good. So tough luck, hater. Watch closely, Itachi added. Don't you recognize this opening? Yudachi had a bad feeling, as he tried to recall what season this opening belonged to. All trace of color left his face when he remembered the answer. No. It can't be. It's the almost 100-episode-long filler season set between parts 1 and 2, Itachi finished Yudachi's sentence. All the bravado the genin had displayed was all but gone, replaced by sheer, primal terror. Enjoy 72 hours of mediocre writing, forgettable characters, cheap animation and nonsensical yet predictable plots. No. As usual, Jiraiya was in his office, accompanied by a couple clones, doing the work his position demanded. Somebody then knocked the door. Without waiting for the Hokage to answer, a lizard-masked ANBU entered the office, carrying several scrolls. Hokage-sama, these are today's letters addressed to you specifically, the ANBU said, placing the stack of scrolls on the table, and then he picked one. But you should read this one first. It's labeled as urgent, and carries the personal seal of the Mizukage. Jiraiya nodded, and after breaking the seal, he unfurled and read the scroll. His eyes started to widen as he read its contents. Quickly, find my son and his teammates. Tell him I have an urgent mission to them. Jiraiya asked. The ANBU nodded. Yes, Hokage-sama, he said, before vanishing. Sarutobi State. The residence of the Sarutobi clan wasn't something the assault squad was used to visit. Still, in just a few months, they dropped by so often, everybody felt as if they've been there their whole lives. The reason for this, naturally, was that their sensei was now a member of the clan. I thought that nobody had bigger place than the Hyugas, but this one is pretty big as well, Naruto pointed out, as he took some moments to admire the state while they walked across the front patio. The Sarutobi clan is one of the largest clans of Konoha. Naturally, they'll need a big place to house all of their members, Haku replied. Even then, I like this place. It feels far more livelier than the Hyuga state, Hinata pointed out. Yeah, people here greet you with a smile. It's like they don't have a stick up their butts, Naruto pointed out, before shooting a quick glance to her girlfriend. No offense. None taken, Hinata replied with a hand wave. Though, you know, sometimes I wonder if I would have been able to make you fall for me if I was as stiff and overly formal as the rest of my clansmen. If that was the case, I doubt you would have been interested in me to begin with, Naruto pointed out. But I'm sure you would have. You still have plenty of other admirable qualities. For a second, Hinata could swear she saw Naruto's eyes locked onto her chest. Oh, look. Kurenai-sensei's there, Haku noticed. And indeed, their Jonin-sensei was leaving the main building just as they were about to head in. The Genjutsu mistress was now wearing a sleeveless red cotton dress over a green short-sleeved t-shirt. Her stomach had now a noticeable bump. The former leader of the assault squad smiled upon seeing her students. It wasn't hard to tell why they were here. Naruto, Hinata, Haku. What a nice surprise, the red-eyed woman warmly greeted them. Did you come here to see me? The three of them nodded in unison. Indeed. But I see that you're about to leave. Do you have any chores or tasks to do? Because if this is a bad moment, we can come another moment, Hinata said, in an apologetic tone. Yes, I was going to leave, but we can spend some time together, Kurenai suggested. If you want, you can come with me to the place I'm heading. Sounds nice, Haku agreed. Where are you going? First, I'm going to stop at the Yamanaka flower shop to buy some flowers. Then I'm heading to the cemetery. Her 3 students blinked in surprise. Are you sure you want us to go with you? I mean, cemeteries aren't the kind of places you go with friends, Naruto uneasily said, as he rubbed the back of his neck. On the contrary. I think they're places when one needs the support of your friends and family the most, Kurenai countered. Since in those places, we're at our most vulnerable. Her 3 students looked pensive upon those words sunk in. They always thought that when one was with their deceased loved ones, it was a moment of personal privacy, not to be shared with other people. Besides, that way I can talk you about a certain somebody I would have loved for you to meet, Kurenai said. All right then, Naruto said with a shrug. Let's go then. Since we're at it, I might visit father's grave as well, Hinata said, before she rubbed her arm. I admit that I don't pay him as many visits as I should. Their first stop was the Yamanaka flower shop to buy some flowers. At the counter was Ino's mother, who, after some light talking, told the members of the assault squad about Ino's recent streak of doing solo missions, much to her sensei and teammates' concerns. I'll tell her about it the next time I see her, Hinata had promised Mrs. Yamanaka. Naruto's reaction, or lack of thereof, didn't go unnoticed by his perceptive girlfriend, as if somehow Ino's behavior didn't surprise him. She made a note to ask Naruto if he knew something about Ino. After pushing those to the back of her mind, Hinata bought some carnations to leave at her father's grave. Carnations meant admiration for a loved one and acknowledging their great deeds, something befitting for her proud father. She saw Kurenai ordering some white roses, which symbolized innocence, and made her wonder who was this person she was going to visit. Hey, Hinata, I was going to buy some flowers to leave at my biological parents' grave. Do you have any suggestions? Naruto asked. Though something different from yours. I don't want to copy you. Try gladiolus. They symbolize strength, honor and loving memories, Hinata replied. I'm sure that's how both you and everybody else remember the 4th Hokage and his wife. Naruto smiled at her suggestion. Thank you, I'll do that. In the end, Haku was the only one who didn't buy any flowers. He explained them that after his father killed his mother, and he killed his father in self-defense, he left their hometown fearing for his life, and thus he doesn't know what has been of their bodies. Have you thought about them? Kurenai asked. Maybe return to the land of water, and see if at least they were given proper burial? Sometimes, Haku said, sounding oddly neutral. But I was so little when they went away. I have no lost love for my father, but I don't even remember what my mother used to look like. That's so sad, Hinata emphatically said. I guess it is. But it's not so bad anymore. I do have a new home and a new family. Yugao-san and Hayate-san took care of me when I came to live here, and there's Zabuza-sama. They're as much family to me as my mother was, even if we aren't related by blood. A few minutes later, they arrived at the cemetery. While Kurenai, accompanied by Haku, went to visit her father's grave, Hinata and Naruto went to visit the grave of Hayashi Hyuga. Do you think in your father? Naruto asked. Sometimes, Hinata replied. I'm twice as old as I was back when he was taken away from us. And Hanabi-chan hardly remembers him. Can't blame her for that, since he was not even 4. I do have some vague memories of him, Naruto told her. He looked quite stern and imposing. He made quite the first impression when I first met him. Yes, father was strict. Though he could be loving and understanding as well, Hinata replied. I guess he had to appear strong in order to maintain order in the clan. Wonder what he would have thought had he seen your speech when you were appointed the new clan head, Naruto said, chuckling a little upon recalling the memory. I like to think he'd be proud of me, Hinata said, a bit unsure. He was a man of high expectations. But I'm sure that he would have loved to see the clan united. He would be more than just proud, Naruto added. After spending a few more minutes, the couple moved to the graves of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto placed half of the flowers on each grave, and stood there without saying anything. I admit that I should have visited them more as well. But hey, I didn't even get to know them, so it's kind of hard, Naruto said, trying to sound justified, before his face softened. Still, they were my birth parents and died to protect me. Plus I'm their only living relative. They deserve as much. Jiraiya-sama used to be the fourth sensei. Did he tell you about him? Hinata asked. Yeah, plenty of stuff. He was a pretty cool guy and a badass ninja. The ideal all ninjas should strive for, Naruto said, chuckling a little. Or at least, that's what Dad used to say. There's also Kakashi-sensei and Rin, who studied under him, Hinata reminded her boyfriend. Yeah, I asked Rin a few things about him. Makes me wish I was able to meet him, Naruto sadly replied, his voice laced with some melancholy. I can't believe it was one of his students who caused his death. I could never picture neither myself or any of you guys doing something like that to Kurenai-sensei. From what Rin told us, Obito's case was far more complex than what we think, Hinata replied, and realizing that she sounded like she was defending Obito, she quickly added, not to say that's an excuse for all the atrocities he did. It's just that we like to think we know both ourselves and those close to us, but everybody can change or do something out of character in a dire situation. Still, how one does go from wanting to be Hokage to setting a tailed beast loose in the village and not caring how many people die? Naruto questioned. Hinata placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. I don't know. But I think it would be best if never found out. Guess you're right, Naruto admitted, before something caught his attention. Oh look, there are Haku and Kurenai-sensei. Let's go meet with them then, Hinata said, removing her hand from Naruto's shoulder. The group of four gathered together, and the raven-haired woman led them to a certain grave in the most recent part of the graveyard. Apparently, it was from the heir of a certain clan, whose symbol was a wing segmented in 3 parts as if there were feathers. Kurenai's 3 students read the name in the tombstone. Here lies Yakumo Kurama, last member of the Kurama clan, so, a clan died with this girl, Haku noted, grimly realizing that he could have been in a very similar predicament. How did you know this girl, Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked. The Kurama was a clan specialized in genjutsu, thanks to their bloodline limit, which made their illusions so lifelike, the body would react as if it was the real thing. For example, a genjutsu of fire would cause actual burns in the skin, Kurenai explained. Amazing, Naruto gushed upon knowing such a bloodline exists. Or existed. However, not all members manifest this bloodline. In fact, this bloodline hasn't been manifested since the times of Hashirama. This caused the clan to dwindle in both size and importance over the decades. Until Yakumo was born, and much to their parents' joy, she had the bloodline. However, there were complications. She had some health problems, and had a lot of trouble keeping her powers under control. That's why Hokage-sama tasked me to personally train this girl. It was a year or so before I became your sensei. I made a lot of progress with her, and her health improved thanks to a treatment developed by Tsunade-sama, and had hopes that she could become a genin. However, before she could be examined, tragedy struck. Her house was caught in a massive fire, killing both her and her parents. Kurenai finished her explanation. Kurenai's words were followed by a long moment of silence as her students absorbed them. While the charred corpses of her parents were found, there was no trace of her body, Kurenai stated. At first I had hopes that maybe she escaped and was alive somewhere out there, but in the end I was forced to admit the truth. Yakumo and her clan were gone forever. How is that you never told us about this other student of yours, Kurenai-sensei? Naruto asked. Though he sounded more curious rather than indignant. Yakumo was my tragedy, not yours. I didn't see the need to get you involved in this, Kurenai replied. Even then, I'm glad you told us about her, Hinata chimed in. That way, more people will remember her. Even if we didn't get to meet her when she was alive. Kurenai smiled a little. Yes, that's a way of seeing it, I guess. At that moment, a lizard-masked Anbu appeared before them. Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, Haku Yuki. Hokage-sama requires your presence for an urgent mission of utmost importance, the Anbu told them, his tone being stoic but at the same time conveying urgency. Kurenai's three studnets exchanged knowing glances, realizing what such mission was going to be. Guess we'll have to continue our talk another time, Kurenai-sensei, Naruto apologized. Don't worry. I know that when duty calls, you must heed said call. Come on, go, the Genjutsu mistress said. Her three students quickly waved her goodbye before leaving for the Hokage Tower. Hokage's Tower. The three younger members of THR Assault Squad were in the Hokage's office, standing in front of Jiraiya, sitting in his desk. His face sported a serious look, and was holding a scroll in his hand. The crest of Kirigakure was visible on the scroll. A few moments ago, this message arrived from the Mizukage, Jiraiya began, showing them the furled scroll. She said that her forces had located the Jinchuriki of the Six Tails, Utakata. Naruto instantly beamed the moment the news reached his ears. That's great. Naruto beamed. However, his expression turned serious the moment a certain thought sunk in. But she didn't write that message just to tell us that Utakata is safe, right? Jiraiya shook his head. She sent a team of Anbu led by two of her swordsmen in order to retrieve and escort him back to the village, but he refused. A fight ensued, and eventually the Anbu were forced to retire, since they couldn't risk harming him in any way. Upon seeing the outcome of the mission, Mei realized that maybe the word of another Jinchuriki might be make Utakata see reason and return to the safety of Kirigakure. And that's where I enter the picture, right? The blonde guessed. Jiraiya nodded. Yes. According to this message, Utakata and some girl that travels with him are currently in a place called Nagi Island. The Kirigakure team will be waiting for you. The Hokage pulled out another small scroll and tossed it to Naruto, who easily caught it. This scroll contained additional information on the mission. Now that you know the essentials, you should hurry and head towards Nagi Island as soon as possible. You will take several days to arrive there, and it's possible that by that time Utakata might have left. If that happens, the Kiri ninja will follow him as to not lose his track. Not to mention the constant threat of the Akatsuki. The three of them nodded, but it was Naruto who replied. Leave it in our hands, Dad. Akatsuki will go home empty-handed this time around. After bidding Naruto farewell and hoping he had luck on his mission, Jiraiya returned to work. Given that there were no scheduled meetings for that day, Jiraiya decided to try to finish the paperwork for the day as soon as possible with the help of shadow clones, and then spend some time writing the next Ika novel. He was way behind schedule, but he was sure his fans would understand, and after that, do something with Tsunade and the kids. The twins' kidnapping attempt made Jiraiya realize how easily somebody could take your loved ones away from you, and he wasn't going to let anything to enjoy every moment he could with his wife and kids. At that moment, somebody knocked the door. Jiraiya suppressed a groan. He wasn't in the mood for a surprise meeting or any bad news. It'd better be important. Come in. Jiraiya said. The door opened, revealing Itachi Uchiha. Yep, it was important. Hokage-sama, I finished my investigation in Amigakure, Itachi began. I managed to abduct one of its ninjas, and bring him here. I left him at torture and interrogation, but I took the liberty of interrogating him myself to see what he knew. Please take a seat, Jiraiya said, waving at one of the chairs in front of him. And tell me everything. Leave no details out. Itachi nodded, sat down, and gave Jiraiya a detailed recollection of his infiltration in Amigakure, up to the interrogation part. Your suspicions turned out to be correct, Hokage-sama. As torture and interrogation will more than likely confirm, Hanzo the Salamander is no longer the leader of Amigakure, and hasn't been for at least the past 5 years, Itachi stated. Akatsuki controls the village. Jiraiya let out a long sigh, as he leaned back on his chair. Those weren't good news in the slightest. Hanzo might have been a loose cannon and a warmonger, but at the very least he was easy to both predict and appease. And since the ninja you interrogated was a mere genin, I'm going to assume that such knowledge is both public and supported by the population, Jiraiya guessed. This definitely wasn't going to be the same situation as with Taki. But much to his surprise, Itachi shook his head. No, the man has no idea what Akatsuki is, even if he already met one already. Apparently, the village leaders are someone they called God and his angel. He did met the latter. Do you have a description? Jiraiya asked, fearing the answer. A woman in her 30s. Shoulder-length blue hair in a bob haircut with a small bun, decorated with an origami flower. Light brown eyes. A piercing under her lower lip. The woman seems to have some sort of power over paper. If it's a bloodline limit or a secret jutsu, I can't tell, Itachi explained. Another long sigh. Yes, he feared that answer for a very good reason. Naturally, such obvious reaction didn't go unnoticed by somebody so observant as Itachi. Hokage-sama? Is everything okay? The Uchiha asked. Is the woman familiar to you? Sadly yes, she is, Jiraiya replied. The possible suspects of who this god might be was pretty small, and Jiraiya knew he could reduce it to just one name. Do you want me to do something about it? Itachi offered. No, you already did enough. I need to check a few things and talk with some people before further action can be taken on this issue, Jiraiya replied. Take a few days to rest. I heard that your brother was particularly upset after his latest mission, so maybe spending time with you might do him some good. Itachi stood up, and make a bow. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Do not hesitate to call me if you have another mission only I can complete. Nagi Island. As Jiraiya had said, it took them almost a week to reach Nagi Island, since they had to travel all the way to the coast of the Land of Fire, and find and board a ship that could get them to the place in question. Luckily, Mei had already foreseen this and took the liberty to rent a ship that was already waiting for the Konoha team. Still, even if the ship was fast and the wind and waters were favorable, the trip by sea took 4 days. As they got off from the ship and walked into the small port town, the 3 Konoha ninja took a moment to examine it. So far, the port town, while unremarkable at first sight, it was busy and teeming with activity. Being a neutral country, people from other nations saw Nagi Island as a nexus to do deals with other countries in a safe way. Alright, here we are, Naruto said. Dad said that somebody from Kiri should be here. Hinata, use your Tensigen to dash HEY, you guys. Over here, a female voice yelled among the crowd of people. Turning in the direction of the voice, they saw Miyako and Suigetsu, wearing the Kirigakure Jonin uniform, as well as carrying their respective swords, the helmet splitter on Miyako's back and the sewing needle attached to Suigetsu's belt. Well, that was easier than we expected, Naruto pointed out. The mission demands for us not to waste any time. I appreciate that they took the effort to look for us, Haku said. The others couldn't help but nod. As they walked towards the 2 young swordsmen of the mist, Suigetsu and Miyako greeted them with a polite bow. Naruto-san, Hinata-san, it's nice to see you again, the blue-haired woman said, before turning to Haku. It's good to see you too, Ambassador. The feeling is mutual, Haku replied, returning the bow. Sorry for my bluntness, but shall we skip the pleasantries and go directly to the matter at hand? Naruto interjected, growing a little antsy at the exchange. Sure, Suigetsu said. Come on, let's go. After leaving the port town, they advanced into the island, which was composed mostly of very thick forests, that would remind the Konoha trio of the Land of Fire, if there wasn't for the many rivers and lakes that crossed the mass of land. One certainly could feel peace and harmony while being in such natural paradise. Even if you guys took some time to arrive, Utakata is still in the island, Suigetsu spoke. Fortunately, despite our initial confrontation, we made him believe that we're not going to try anything. But that may change soon, Miyaki continued. Utakata never stays in the same place for long, so it's a good thing that you arrived in time. As far as our last report goes, he's still here. And where is he, might I ask? Hinata said. He and the girl he travels with, we believe she's an apprentice of some sort, set a camp at the edge of a small waterfall lake. Our Hunter Nin watch his every step, Suigetsu said. Man, you sent Hunter Nin after him? No wonder the guy reacted so bad then. Naruto indignantly pointed out. Hey, what were we supposed to do? Suigetsu said with a defensive shrug. Hunter Nin are usually dispatched in these kind of situations. Anyway, that's why we requested your presence here. Maybe another Jinchuriki might make him change his mind and see reason. Before Naruto-kun can attempt anything, we'll need to know more about this person, Hinata interjected. What can you tell us about him? Utakata was a very skilled ninja. He graduated the academy at 10, got a promotion to Chunin the next year, and Jonin when he was just 16. While we don't know the exact date, we believe he was made into a Jinchuriki when he was a small child. Though such thing was never a problem for Utakata, Miyaki explained, as if she was recalling the text of a bingo book. Until one day, when he was 21, he lost control of his tailed beast, killing his sensei and many other ninjas in the process. After that, he fled Kirigakure and became a vagrant ever since. Do you know what caused to lose control of his tailed beast? Haku asked, being the question in the minds of Naruto and Hinata as well. Both Miyaki and Suigetsu shook their heads. Whatever happened, he refuses to tell. Also, it's worth noting that at some point about a year ago, he started to travel with a girl. Younger than him, I'd say about 18 to 20 years of age, Suigetsu added, before the white-haired swordsman's lips formed a toothy grin. Guess a man can't be alone that much time, hee. We aren't sure what their relationship is, Miyaki punctualized, shooting Suigetsu a disapproving look. Anyway, when we arrive at his location, I think it would be for the best if you got close to him alone. Our approach has to be as non-threatening as possible. What if Utakata attacks Naruto-kun? Hinata suggested, worry creeping through her spine. How strong is he, by the way? Like Miyako said, very strong, Suigetsu stated. And that's not even counting his Jinchuriki powers. We do know he has some degree of mastery over them. It's okay. There won't be a fight. I know I'll be able to convince him of the threat that hangs over his head. Over all of our heads, Naruto corrected himself. Several Kiri Anbu are heading towards our position, Hinata stated. They must be our Hunter Nin, Suigetsu stated. The two groups meet on the middle, and the Konoha ninja could see 5 Anbu, all of them wearing masks minus one, who appeared to be the leader of the small squad, a middle-aged man with long dark brown hair, and a small beard and a mustache. Suigetsu-sama, Miyaki-sama. I see that you brought the Konoha ninjas at last, the man said, smiling a little. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tsurugi, Anbu captain. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and these are Hinata Hyuga and Haku Yuki, Naruto stated. I'm the Jinchuriki, by the way. I see. It's good to have you here, Tsurugi said, before his eyes rested on Haku. You must be the ambassador appointed by Mizukage-sama at the end of the Civil War, right? It's an honor to meet you. The feeling is likewise. But unfortunately, pleasantries will have to wait. Do you know where the Jinchuriki is? Haku asked. Yes. He and his apprentice set their camp at the edge of a river. They've been there for the past few days, but for the look of it, it seems like they're ready to move out. You guys arrived just in time, Tsurugi explained. Good. Tell me where they are, and I'll go. But please, have your men stand back. I need to be alone for this work, Naruto said. That's not a good idea, Naruto-san, Tsurugi countered. Jinchuriki or not, you are still a stranger to Utakata. You won't be able to win him with words alone. I know that man. I think I should go with you. If you do that, he'll smell a trap, Naruto pointed out. And what do you think he's going to think when he sees a Konoha Jinchuriki so far away from his home nation? Tsurugi asked. Naruto blinked, not taking into account such possibility. Still, I think it's for the best if I'm alone. Even if he guesses my intentions or that we're in cahoots with you guys, if I go alone he won't feel as threatened, Naruto replied. Tsusuji crossed his arms over his chest, and appeared to ponder Naruto's reasoning. He had to admit that, even if his intentions could be obvious, Naruto was right. His appeal would sound much more sincere and non-threatening if he was alone. Okay then. But we'll be near you in case something happens, Tsurugi stated. Is Utakata-san a censor? Hinata chimed in. He might sense our presence if it's the case. As far as I can tell, no, it was Miyaki who answered. But that man has been running away from people like us for years, so the guy does know when somebody is following or spying on him. Meaning that we should be extra careful while masking our presence. Understood. Then, I'll watch from the skies. I doubt he'll be able to realize somebody's up there, Hinata said, before she took off into the sky, much to the Kiri ninja's amazement, and Naruto and Haku's nonchalance. Which didn't go unnoticed by the Fromer group. Did that girl just flew into the sky? A flabbergasted Suigetsu asked. Yeah, she did, Naruto happily said, placing his arms behind his back. Man, I never get tired of seeing people's reactions when they see her fly for the first time. She didn't fly when I first met you guys, Miyaki pointed out, still looking upwards. No. That's something she learned to do recently, Naruto replied. Miyaki pouted a little. The civil war would have ended much sooner if we had a ninja that could fly. Naruto tried to lower his guard as he walked towards the campsite. It was a foolish thing for a ninja to do, but being non-threatening was key, and the last thing he needed was the other Jinchuriki attacking him out of the blue. As he walked, not even bothering with stealth, even making sure that the two people in the campsite heard him coming, the blonde took a look at the two people in it. A man and a woman. The woman was a little older than him, with long dark blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing a pink, sleeveless kimono that reached down her hips. She was setting up a small fire. This woman had to be his apprentice/partner/lover/whatever. The man, whom Naruto guessed was Utakata, was pretty tall. He had short brown hair, with a lingbang covering his left side of the face, leaving a light brown eye visible. His lithe and svelte body was covered by a long light blue kimono, loose enough to reveal his bare chest, tied by an orange sash. Hataru, stay here. I'll deal with him, Naruto heard him said as he handed her a handful of recently caught fishes. Hey there. Naruto said, happily waving at him. He hoped his cheerfulness didn't come off as too fake. I don't know who you are, Utakata cut him off, as he walked towards the incoming blonde. And I don't know what do you want either. But if you appreciate your life, you'll turn around and go back to when you came from. Whoa, there. Naruto said, bringing his hands up in defense. You didn't even let me talk. Because I have no interest in what you have to say, Utakata repeated. Now leave. This is my last warning. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Listen, I know you're a Jinchuriki, Naruto stated. The woman gasped a little upon hearing this, though less from the fact itself and more for Naruto knowing it. Utakata, however, remained impassible. So I am. Utakata was taken aback a little, but his frown soon returned. Liar. I don't lie. Tailed beasts share a special link. When two Jinchuriki are together, they can feel that link. I'm sure that you can feel it as well, Naruto insisted. Utakata was ready to deny such thing, but he was unable to. He did feel a weird connection to the blonde, something he only felt with another person in his whole life. Still, that didn't change much. The blonde was still suspicious to him. I admit that you're right. I feel a connection with you. But that leaves the question of what a Konoha ninja, he started, taking a look at Naruto's headband. Is interested in a vagrant like myself. It can't be just because we're Jinchuriki. Actually, that's exactly the reason, Naruto replied. Some Kiri ninja contacted you in the past days, right? Yes, they wanted me to return to Kiri, Utakata replied, before a realization dawned upon him. His frown turned into a scowl. Wait a minute, you're with them, right? They called you to convince me to return to Kiri? Know that, after the civil war ended, Konoha and Kiri became allies. Damn, this guy is good. Better try to be honest so he has no reason to suspect me of anything funny, Naruto thought, as a trickle of sweat ran through his neck. Yes, they called me. And it's very important that you listen to them. You're in grave danger. All of our kind are. Danger? What kind of danger? The woman asked, as he walked towards the duo. Don't listen to him, Hataru. They're lies to make me go back to my old village, Utakata told her, before turning his gaze back to Naruto. Like I said before, leave. Or I'll make you leave by force. No. Naruto shouted, his previous goodwill evaporating. I'm not going to let either one of us pointlessly die. You have to go back to the safety of your village. You're in danger here. And if you refuse, I'll make you return by force. Hataru immediately placed herself between the two men, hoping to avert a needless fight. Please, no. There's no need to fight. You heard him, Hataru. He threatened to bring me back to Kiri by force if I don't do as he says. I think a fight is inevitable at this point, Utakata seethed. No, it's not. Let's listen to what he has to say, okay? He doesn't look like an untrustworthy person. Hataru insisted. Utakata didn't say anything, but judging by his body language, he appeared to agree with the girl. Hataru then turned to Naruto. What kind of danger are you talking about? You see but first, Utakata cut him again. Tell all the people with you to come out. If they're doing this for my own good and don't have any kind of ulterior motives, there's no need to stay hidden. I came here alone. The other Kiri ninjas are not here, Naruto stated. Come out, I know you're there. Tsurugi. Miyaki. Suigetsu. Utakata shouted. And much to Naruto's surprise and chagrin, the Kiri ninja and Haku emerged from behind the trees. Naruto let out a defeated sigh. Guys, I told you not to come with me. Now you ruined it, the blonde pouted. Sorry, but this was too important. In case you failed, we need to be prepared in order to take Utakata by force to Kirigakure, Miyaki stated, ignoring the glare the Jinchuriki of the Six Tails was shooting her. But such thing won't be necessary, because Utakata will come to us of his own volition once he hears what's at stake, Naruto insisted, glaring at the blue-haired swordswoman as well. If all of us are here, then there's no point in Hinata watching the sky, Haku said, waving upwards. Much to Utakata and Hataru's surprise, they saw a blue-haired girl with glowing teal eyes slowly descending from above. Sometime later night fell upon Nagi Island. While Utakata was on edge at first, after some time he got used to the presence of the hunter Nin. The masked ninjas did nothing other than stay silent and watch the campsite surroundings, on the possibility that an enemy might appear before they could evacuate the Jinchuriki. The rest were sitting around a fire while they enjoyed some dinner. And this Akatsuki people, you said that they already captured 4 Jinchuriki? Utakata asked. Naruto nodded energically. We managed to save one of them after his tailed beast was extracted, but it was mostly luck. I doubt we'll be able to do that again. Akatsuki seems to learn from experience. After we rescued Gara-san, it appears that they got better at hiding their lairs and bases, Hinata added. That's why it's so important we find all the remaining Jinchuriki and put them in a safe place. And so far, the great villages are our best bet. Being in the open alone, it's an invitation to the Akatsuki, Naruto urged. Are they that dangerous? Hotaru asked. Because Utakata-sensei is very strong. If those Akatsuki came for him, I'm sure he'd be able to kick their butts. Akatsuki is comprised entirely of S-rank criminals. It was Miyaki who spoke. They know their prey are dangerous ones, that's why they made sure their members are able to face Jinchuriki and win. Remember that they have defeated 4 other Jinchuriki already, Haku added. So, why are they after us to begin with? Because of the tailed beasts? Utakata asked. Naruto nodded once again. And how do they expect to control them? Few are the Jinchuriki capable of such feat. I'm able to control some degree of the Six Tails power, but too much and I lose control of it. Actually, they don't plan to become Jinchuriki themselves. You see, Naruto told Utakata everything he knew about the demonic statue of the outer path, and how if all 9 tailed beasts were sealed inside it, the 10 tails would be revived, which would spell the end of the world. How Akatsuki planned to take control of the best, Naruto didn't know, but in either case that monster couldn't be allowed to be reborn. Both Utakata and Hotaru took a few moments to let the blonde's tale sink in. While they looked surprised at first, they were now pensive. The Jinchuriki more than his apprentice, though. What you say is indeed troubling. But I still can't help but think that this is part of an elaborate ruse to get me back to the village, Utakata stated. Come on man, we left you alone for years. We didn't even try to recruit you when we were fighting against Yagura, and your help would have speed things up a lot, so please tell me why did we change our mind now? Suigetsu hotly protested. Yes. And I doubt the Jinchuriki of Konoha could have bothered to come all the way to this place just to sell you a lie, Miyaki added. This is serious, Utakata-san. Words alone can't convey the threat Akatsuki is. Besides their power, they also have influence. It was them who controlled Yagura and turned our village into the so-called blood mist. Hell, we don't even want you to come to Kirigakure in particular. If you want to stay in Konoha or Suna, then fine, Suigetsu suggested. Our orders were to make you go to any of those 3 villages. But why would you prefer Konoha or Suna over your own home? Well, I couldn't really tell. Hotaru tugged Utakata's sleeve. I think they're telling the truth, sensei. Besides, what would the Mizukage win by having you go to another village? The stubborn Jinchuriki had to admit they had a point. Still, all the mistrusts and misanthropy built over his years of isolation after his sensei's apparent betrayal weren't easy to ignore. Even then, there was still a part of him that was constantly warning him of an impending danger. What do you say then? Will you let us protect you? Naruto hopefully asked. Utakata took a few moments to think his answer before he opened his mouth. For the time being, let's wait until tomorrow morning. I need some time to think about what you guys told me. While all of them were cautious and didn't get their hopes up, the fact that the Jinchuriki had at least listened to them and was going to take their words into consideration was indeed a small victory. All what was left was to hope that Utakata would agree to take shelter in one of the 3 great villages. After the tense discussion, people on both sides started to calm down. In order to maximize their chances, Naruto approached Utakata in order to make some small talk and bond with him, while also being careful not to mention anything that made it obvious he was trying to sway his decision. Empathy was the best course of action. As they talked, Hotaru decided to do the same and sat closer to Naruto's 2 teammates. She put on her friendliest smile when greeting them. Hello there. I don't think we've been introduced to each other. My name is Hotaru, and I'm Utakata-sensei's apprentice, Hotaru began. Hello, Hotaru-san. My name is Hinata Hyuga, and this is Haku Yuki. We're Naruto-kun's teammates, though you probably guessed that already, Hinata replied. Besides his teammate, I'm also Naruto-kun's girlfriend. Really? Cool. You make a cute couple, the dark blonde complimented, before switching topics. So, you think Naruto will convince Utakata-sensei to return to his home? We hope so. Naruto-kun has the ability to reach people's heart with his earnestness. I have faith he can do it, Haku replied. Though I wouldn't be surprised if he failed this time. While things are better now, the land of water used to be a pretty dangerous place, in no small part thanks to the blood mist. Are you from the land of water? Hataru asked. You wear both a Konoha and Kiri forehead protector. I didn't know a ninja could be loyal to two villages, even if they are allied. I mean, if war broke between Konoha and Kiri, who would you side with? To answer your first question, yes, I was born in the land of water, but I grew up in Konoha, that's why I wear Konoha's crest around my forehead. However, I was made ambassador of Kiri in Konoha after the civil war ended, hence the Kiri forehead protector in my neck, Haku explained. And to answer your second question, it's my job to make sure such thing doesn't happen. But if war eventually broke out, I wouldn't take sides, I'd try my best to make sure both sides stopped fighting and reached an agreement. I see. Let's hope that such thing doesn't come to pass then, Hataru replied, smiling at him. What about you, Hataru-san? How did you become Utakata-san's apprentice? Hinata asked. I might be judging him too hastily, but he doesn't look to be a man patient enough to have an apprentice. Your judgment isn't that far off, Hinata. I met Utakata-sensei when he protected me from a group of ninja, though they were actually after him. I took him home and treated his injuries, and after seeing how strong he was, I asked him to be my sensei. At first he gave me overly difficult exercises in order to make me give up, but I was determined to complete them, Hataru began. Such as? Hinata asked. He first asked me to walk on water, when I hadn't have any kind of chakra control, she explained, while Haku and Hinata winced. Though with perseverance, I managed to do it. But that wasn't the end of it, was it? Haku guessed. Not by a long shot. Hataru replied, laughing a little. He then had me do a water jutsu, despite the fact that I didn't even know if my affinity was water to begin with, or even doing the basic exercises first. But once again, I proved my worth. He really did want to get rid of you, Hinata stated, sounding a bit dazzled. He did. But in the end, I proved I had the resolve to be her apprentice, and in the end he accepted me, Hataru stated. I like to think that he grew to appreciate my company and saw me as a worthy apprentice. If he allowed you to stick with him for so long, I believe that's the case, Haku stated. I know a thing or two about hard teachers. Albeit in my case Zabuza-sama never wanted to get rid of me, just make me as strong as possible in the shortest amount of time. You mean Zabuza, as in the current leader of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist? Hataru asked, genuinely surprised. Wow. And here I thought that I was so lucky to have somebody as Utakata-sensei as my teacher. Lucky? Hinata thought. But Utakata-san wanted to get rid of her also, sorry for asking you this. We know Utakata-san's stance, but what about you? Do you have any opinion on what Utakata-san should do? Haku asked. As his apprentice, I'll follow him no matter what he decides. But honestly, I'd prefer if he decided to stay in one of the villages, Hataru replied. Not just for the sake of being safer, but because while traveling the world and meeting new people is fine, I'd like if we decided to stay in the same place more than a couple weeks. Both him and I could make more permanent friends. And you think you could convince him to do that? Hinata asked. Hataru chuckled a little. You already met Utakata-sensei, and know how stubborn he is. I can try, but don't expect much. I'm more interested in traveling with him than he is in having me following him around, and he's very aware of that, Hataru admitted, averting her gaze. If I told him that I want to live to one of the villages, he'll say that I'm free to do it. Still, it would be great if you tried, Haku insisted. The stakes are really high. Don't worry, I didn't say no. I'll try to get on his case once he stops talking with Naruto-san and we can be alone, Hataru promised. But like I said, don't expect him to put much weight on my wants. Thank you for your effort, Hataru-san, Hinata replied. We don't ask more than that. Nagi Island port town. Most ships usually avoided traveling during the night, since it was an incredibly dangerous thing to do. Without natural light, it was very hard to see rock formations in the coast that could sink a vessel. And sadly, Nagi Island lacked a lighthouse to guide ships in the dark of the night. Even then, a small ship managed to arrive at the island. It didn't stop at the dock, since its occupants didn't want to draw attention to their presence. Instead, they dropped the anchor when they were close to the shore, jumped into the water, and using chakra, they walked, or better said, ran, towards the island. So, the Six-Tails Jinchuriki is somewhere in this island, according to the intel, one of the figures that came out of the ship stated. Indeed he is, Conan, the other one replied. How are you so sure? Conan asked. If he left this island, we would have been warned. No, he is here, and he's unaware of the danger that hangs over his head. I see. What is the plan, Pain? Conan asked. For the time being, let's track the Jinchuriki. Find if he's alone, or if there's anybody accompanying him. Then, we'll devise a strategy, and attack, Pain replied. We must be swift and careful. I wouldn't put past the great villages to start gathering the wandering Jinchuriki as well just to stop to our plans, Conan sagely advised. Let them try, the Akatsuki leader replied. Nothing but pain will await to those who stand in our way. As I said, I've been thinking about what you told me. The threat of Akatsuki, and what should I do in order to avoid it, Utakata began. Everybody listened to him intently. What he would say next would determine if the mission could end here and there and finally take the Jinchuriki to a safe place, or if the Kiri and Konoha ninja would have to subdue him by force. At first, I thought that if I did what I've been doing this past years, moving from one place to another and never staying in the same place for long, I'd be able to evade the Akatsuki, Utakata stated. However, you finding me is evidence that such plan isn't going to work. I also thought that, in the case they got me, I could defend myself from whoever they send to capture me. But again, the fact that Akatsuki captured other Jinchuriki already also means that it'd be foolish if I was so overconfident. Both Miyake and Suigetsu looked hopeful. Does that mean? Miyake began, almost holding her breath. Yes. I decide to let myself to be taken into the great village's custody, Utaka finished. Everybody cheered upon hearing the Jinchuriki's response, Hataru included, much to Utakata's surprise, who raised an eyebrow at this. He cleared his throat to indicate that he wasn't finished. However, I do have a condition, Utakata stated. The cheering abruptly stopped, and the mood died down. Miyake, however, kept a positive attitude. Whatever it is, Utakata-san, I'm sure we can provide it, she said in a conciliatory tone. As long as it's something reasonable, that's it. So, what do you want for Kiri to offer you? I want nothing from Kiri, Utakata stated, his voice laced with some venom. I don't want to return to that place. You told me that I was able to go to any of the great villages, right? In that case, I want to go to Konoha. That's my request. Really? That's awesome. Naruto cheered, pumping a fist in the air. May I ask why do you wish to come to our village, Utakata-san? Hinata asked. Don't you prefer to return to your own home? Not that we won't welcome you, Haku helpfully added. If you need to know my reasons, well, the first one is that I have way too many painful memories attached to Kirigakure, and I do not wish to return there. Second, Konoha already houses 2 Jinchuriki. As far as you told me, the brown-haired man looked at Naruto. The only Jinchuriki I ever met was Yagura, and he wasn't a very pleasant man. Now that I have this opportunity, I wish to know both you and the other Jinchuriki better. And third, of all the available options, Konoha seems to be the safest. Utakata then looked at Haku. And from what you told me, I won't be the first land of water native to move there. You're not going to regret it, I can assure you that, Haku replied while nodding. Then it's settled. Utakata and Hataru will move to Konoha. Naruto shouted, as excited as a little boy with a new toy. Hey, I said that I'd be there as long as the Akatsuki threat persists. Once this is over, I'll go back to the road, Utakata interjected. Fair enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if you changed your mind over your stay there, Haku added, smiling a little. I also want to state that I don't plan to become a Konoha ninja nor do missions for your village. That part of my life is already over, Utakata firmly stated. Don't worry. Nobody will force you to do anything you don't want to, Naruto assured him, before he shot his fellow Jinchuriki a foxy grin. Not that I won't try to change your mind. Utakata grimaced a little. I'm already regretting this decision. Come on, Utakata-sensei. I'm sure being in Konoha will be fun. Hataru chimed in. Her sensei just sighed. As they watched the happy exchange, the Kiri ninjas looked less excited than their Konoha counterparts, but they were content nonetheless. We were hoping we could convince you to come back home. I'm going to admit we wanted to have a Jinchuriki again, Suigetsu stated. But we will be happy to know that our enemies won't be able to lay their hands upon you, Miyaki stated. And who knows, maybe in the future, once Maesama wipes away every trace of the blood mist, we can convince you to come back. You're planning way too much ahead, Utakata stated in annoyance. Anyway, now that it's settled, I believe we should get going. The more we stay in the same place, the bigger the Akatsuki's chances of finding us, Suigetsu stated. We should go back to the port town, get a ship that goes to the land of fire, and escort Utakata to Konohagakure. Miyaki nodded. We will tag along until Utakata-san is safe behind Konoha's walls. Is that okay with you? Miyaki asked. The Konoha ninja looked at each other, looking for their mutual approval, and quickly nodded. Yeah, the more we are, the better, Naruto said. Now, let's pack everything up as fast as we can and get moving. True to Naruto's words, they picked up the campsite and got moving in record time. Jumping from one tree branch to another, except Hinata, who flew close to them, the group of Konoha and Kiri ninjas made their way back to the port town. They needed to get back there and get into a ship as soon as possible. Once in the sea, the chances of an ambush happening would be close to zero. And in the land of fire they'd be safer than in a small island in the middle of nowhere. If we keep this pace, we'll reach the port town in little more than half an hour, Miyaki stated. Let's try to make it into less than that, Naruto suggested. Everybody nodded, and increased their pace. Despite the good mood, they wanted to finish this mission as soon as possible, since they felt like they were carrying a potentially dangerous cargo that could blow up at any second, and that filled them with a feeling of uneasiness. And true to that, the metaphorical cargo was about to blow up. Shinra Tensei. Nobody knew where it came from, but 1 second, the group was moving forward, and the next a powerful shockwave blasted them upwards, while tearing down several trees in the process, creating a clearing in the area. All of them landed painfully in the now clear ground with several painful thuds. Ow, where did that come from? No time to groan. Everybody, get back to your feet and ready to fight. Suigetsu called, as his body, which had been partially liquefied by the blast, started to reform. Hinata-hime, find the enemies. Naruto asked. I'm on it, his girlfriend replied, as she expanded her field vision in order to find said enemies. She took no time to find a figure wearing a black cloak with red clouds standing in their path. Akatsuki is here. Of course, this mission would be too easy if they didn't show up, Naruto groaned, as he rolled his eyes. How many of them? Where are they? There, Hinata began, but cut herself as something caught her attention. Another Akatsuki, flying above them. But most distressingly was what she was about to do. Explosive tags coming from above. They're without number. Instinctively, everybody looked up, and indeed, they saw hundreds upon hundreds of explosive tags floating above them, around a member of Akatsuki that kept herself in the air thanks to a pair of wings attached to her back that appeared to be made of paper. The Akatsuki motioned her hand downwards, and the explosive tags rained upon them at such speed they appeared to weight as much as kunai. "Oh shit!" Suigetsu cried. "Everybody, get close to me!" Haku called, as his hands flew through hand seals. Ice release, ice rock dome of magnificent nothingness. As everybody clustered around Haku, 3 domes made of ice quickly formed around them, just in time as the explosive tags reached them, unleashing a chain of explosions. The chain lasted several painfully long seconds, making the ground tremble with each blast. Those sheltered inside prayed for the domes to resist, while Haku struggled to keep them strong. Eventually, the explosion ceased, and Haku allowed himself to stop channeling chakra into the jutsu, which quickly started to thaw. The ice ninja fell to his knees, a bit exhausted. "Good job, Haku-san. If it wasn't for you, who knows how many of us would have perished," Miyaki praised, as her hands reached her helmet splitter. "So, those are enemies, right?" Suigetsu said, also grabbing his sword, the sewing needle. "I never fought against an Akatsuki, but if this is how they open a fight, damn, we're for a fun time." The Akatsuki on land was a man in his early 30s with spiky orange hair, his face and ears loaded with thick black piercings. He was wearing a slashed Amigakure forehead protector. But the trait that drew the most attention were his eyes, completely purple with a concentric ring pattern. The other Akatsuki, a blue-haired woman the same age, with blue hair decorated with a flower, descended upon being close to him. "You've been found at last, Jinchuriki of the 6 tails," the man spoke. His voice was deep and ominous. "Now, I shall take the beast that you bear inside your body. Resisting is futile." "The 9 tails Jinchuriki is also here," the woman observed. "We can capture the 2 of them at once. This opportunity it's too good to pass, Pain." "You may be right, Conan," the man replied. "But for the time being, our main priority is the other." Naruto made a hand seal, and 2 clones popped into existence. Without waiting to receive any order from their creator, the clones rushed in opposite directions, vanishing among the sea of trees. "You said you fought Akatsuki before," Utakata told the Konoha ninja as he grabbed his bubble pipe. "Are these people familiar to you?" "No, we never met them before," Naruto replied, growing tense. "But they look even more powerful than the ones we did." "Your assessment is correct, Uzumaki," the man added. "Because in the past, you only fought against regular men. You're against a god now. We only want the Jinchuriki. Surrender them, and we'll spare everybody else's lives," Conan offered. "If you think we're going to do that, you're more stupid than you look," Hataru angrily replied. Pain noticed that Naruto was staring at him intensely. More specifically, he was looking into his eyes. Something the Akatsuki didn't find unusual, but decided to ignore. "That's it," until the blonde opened his mouth. "Those eyes, they're Rinnegan, correct?" Naruto solemnly asked. Pain's lips curved into a small smile. "You're right. These are the eyes that once were wielded by the Sage of the 6 Paths. As I carry them now, it is my duty to continue with the Sage's mission to create a world without war or strife." "And how do you plan to do that?" "By hunting Jinchuriki?" Naruto angrily replied. "Reviving the 10 tails will only cause the end of the world." Conan opened her eyes widely when Naruto mentioned the name of the monster they were planning to restore. Where did you?" she blabbered. "Their knowledge of the 10 tails is irrelevant to our mission, as it will do them no good," Pain told Conan, sounding as ominous as confident as before his eyes turned towards Naruto again. "But if you need to know, the 10 tails is the key to create that world. If somebody harnessed that vast power, that person would be without equal, and could use that power to put an end to all wars and misery in the world. But that wouldn't be real peace. If you know about the sage and the 10 tails, then you must know about Kaguya too. Hinata heatedly interjected. Such peace isn't bound to last. And what is the alternative? Trust that people will stop hating and warring each other on their own? Conan asked, scowling angrily at the Hyuga. You foolish, naive children, Conan is right, Pain continued. People will never understand each other. Only by knowing each other's pain can understanding be reached. And even if you know the other's pain, hatred may make understanding impossible. That's why there are wars even if most people don't want them. The only way to stop this cycle of hatred is by force. I don't care what you believe. I'm not going to let you dash. Suddenly, Naruto's eyes snapped wide open. Naruto-kun? Hinata worriedly asked. My clones, they disappeared, the confused blonde replied. What? How? Haku asked. Hinata made a hand seal, and her Tenseigan flashed for an instant. Her eyesight expanded to cover the entire area, her eyes also opened wide upon seeing what had killed the clones. More Akatsuki. 5 of them. They're surrounding the clearing. Hinata distressingly informed. All of them have the same orange hair, multiple facial piercings, and those purple eyes. We've studied your fighting style for when the time to capture you arrived, Naruto, Pain replied. Before a fight begins, you create 2 clones that go into hiding, making your opponent believe that you're preparing an ambush. Then, in the middle of the fight, you'll go into sage mode, despite the fact that in order to gather nature energy one needs to be still for a long period of time. But by using clones, you can gather nature energy unimpeded as you fight, then the clone will dispel itself, transferring the nature energy to you, with the added benefit that your opponent's attention is now divided, waiting for an ambush that will never come. Is my guess a correct one, Naruto Uzumaki? Pain asked. Naruto gritted his teeth, as a frustrating feeling of impotence washed over him. I've never fought an Akatsuki without sage mode before. What I'm going to do now? No. Stop the quitter talk. You're a great ninja with or without sage mode. I can win this. I have to win this. The blonde's scowl of frustration disappeared, as it was replaced by a confident smirk. So, you were able to counter one of my many jutsu and techniques. Let's see if you can do the same with the others. Boasts are useless if one lacks the power to back them up, Pain replied, as he raised an open hand towards them. I believe there's no point in conversing anymore. Now, it's your turn to know pain. Shinra Tensei. Once again, a powerful shockwave blasted the group of Konoha and Kiri ninjas backwards with overwhelming force. Though now they realized it wasn't a normal shockwave. A second before being pushed away, it was almost as if they weighed nothing, as if somehow the Akatsuki could manipulate gravity itself. They rushed to get back on their feet as the 2 Akatsuki menacingly approached. Hinata-heim, you can make somebody else fly as well, right? Naruto asked. His girlfriend nodded. In that case, take Utakata to a ship, and get the hell out of here. But I can't leave both you and Haku-kun with those Akatsuki. Hinata protested. You're a Jinchuriki too. You're in danger as well. Don't worry, we'll divide his attention by rushing in a different way. Let's see which one of us he'll go after, Naruto replied. Now go, quickly. Hinata nodded, and made a hand seal. Utakata's feet stopped touching the ground. What the brown-haired Jinchuriki asked, as he started to flail. Sorry Utakata-san, but no time to ask for permission. We need to leave now. Hinata urged as she took off into the sky, with the unwilling Utakata being carried behind. I won't let you, Pain replied, but oddly enough, made no effort to stop the flying ninja. Suddenly the air was filled with several whistles, and much to her shock, Hinata's Tenseigan caught a cluster of missiles flying right at her and Utakata. Wasting no time, her hands started to form several hand seals. Lightning release, thunderbolt. Multiple lightning bolts fired from Hinata's fingertips, catching the incoming barrage of missiles, making them to detonate prematurely. Unfortunately, while Hinata was doing this, she was unable to notice another danger that was coming to them. "Watch out!" Utakata called. As if appearing from thin air, a gigantic, deformed bird with gray plumage and a massive, jagged beak dashed at them. Hinata wasn't able to maneuver in time, and the impact sent the two of them back to the ground, tumbling. "Hinata Heim!" Naruto cried, as he ran towards her. "Sensei!" Hataru cried, following Naruto. The two of them groaned, as they got back on their feet, helped by their respective partners. So far, they didn't look injured. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked. "I'm fine, don't worry. I was able to cushion our fall with my kinetic abilities," Hinata explained. "Guess that's why it didn't hurt as much as I expected," Utakata said, as he took out the bubble pipe he was carrying on his belt. "No option but fighting, I see." "Unfortunately, yes," Naruto bitterly agreed, as he glared at the incoming Akatsuki. "We'll need to take care of the other Akatsuki surrounding the clearing, or else we're going to get blindsided," Hinata stated. "Leave that to me. I'll try to force them out in the open, while getting some intel on their abilities," Naruto said, as he made his favorite hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. An army of 100 Naruto clones popped into existence, as they spread out and went to seek and fight the other 4 Akatsuki. If Pain and Konan were perturbed by this, they didn't show it. "Konan, make sure none of the Jinchuriki leave," Pain instructed his partner. "What about the others?" Konan asked. "The closest ninja village is hundreds of kilometers away. Even if they go away and call for reinforcements, it would take days to arrive," Pain assured her. "Very well then," Konan nodded, and flapping her artificial wings, took off into the sky once again. A black rod emerged from under Pain's sleeve, which the Akatsuki grabbed and wielded it as if it was a weapon. He raised it towards Naruto and Utakata. "Now, let the hunt begin," Pain ominously declared, before raising his other hand. Basho Tenin. Suddenly, Utakata felt completely weightless for a second, before he was pulled towards Pain by a violently unstoppable force. He tried to react, but the suddenness and the sheer force he was being pulled stopped him, and his neck was gripped by Pain's open hand. "You're mine now," Pain said before slamming Utakata into the ground, and readied his black rod to stab him with it. While this happened, Naruto pulled out several shuriken with one hand while making hand seals with the other. The steel started to crackle with electricity just before he threw them at the orange-haired Akatsuki. "Leave him alone!" Naruto shouted. Pain was forced to release Utakata and jump backwards while either dodging the incoming shuriken, or deflecting them with his black rod. Despite being enhanced with lightning release, they failed to cut through Pain's mysterious weapon. Taking advantage of Pain's predicament, the Jinchuriki of the Six Tails quickly got back on his feet, and started to weave hand seals. His apprentice landed beside him, also doing hand seals. "Hataru, let's attack at once," the brown-haired man commanded, the girl nodding in agreement. Acid scattering. Water release, water hail. Utakata expelled from his mouth a stream of an extremely corrosive acid, while Hataru cupped her hands forward, releasing a barrage of water bullets. However, before the two attacks could hit their target, another Akatsuki got in the way. Casting his hands forward, he created a glowing shield of chakra that absorbed both attacks the moment they made contact, much to their bewilderment. Realizing that they were in danger if stayed close to the Akatsuki for longer, Utakata and Hataru jumped back, rejoining the others. "Who is that guy?" Naruto asked, as he stared at the new Akatsuki, a very portly man. Like Pain, he had orange hair, thick facial piercings, and most distressingly, a pair of Rinnegan. "How can he have a Rinnegan too?" "Your minds cannot hope to comprehend the power I possess," Pain boasted once again. A high-pitched shriek came from the sky, as the giant bird from before loomed over them from above, menacingly nose-diving at them. This time, however, Hinata's Tensigen managed to catch the aerial threat in time, and replied before it could cause any harm. Vacuum palm wall. Thursdating both palms upwards, Hinata launched a massive vacuum shell upwards, hitting the giant bird in its beak with such force, it made it deviate its course to the side, before losing its balance and crashing into the ground, tearing some trees apart in the process. Immediately, there was a light rumble followed by the sound of more trees teared apart, as a gigantic ox and equally large rhino plowed through the trees, charging at them. Like the bird, all of them noticed that these animals also had Rinnegan eyes, as well as thick, black stakes piercing their bodies. The hell? Where all these summoned animals are coming from? Suigetsu asked, as he narrowly dodged being eviscerated by the giant rhino's horn. Naruto-kun, I think it's time to bring some summons of our own. Haku called. The blonde nodded, before biting his thumb, and making the usual 5-hand seals. Summoning jutsu. Naruto slammed his palm into the ground, producing a massive burst of smoke. When the smoke dispelled, Naruto was now standing at the top of Gamaken's head. Greetings, Naruto. I'm honored that you have summoned me to battle once again, the soft-spoken toad said. It might be too much for you to handle, but I need your help to deal with those animals, Naruto said, pointing at the incoming rhino and ox. Leave that in my hands, Naruto. I've been training these past years in order to curb my clumsiness, Gamaken replied, as he readied his shield and Susumada. Meanwhile, we'll deal with the others, Naruto said, as he jumped down to rejoin his friends. I'm getting information from my clones on the other guys. One of them is some sort of mechanical being, like a puppet. Another is the one summoning these animals, but it seems is the only thing he can do. I don't know about the other two. We can't let everything in the hand of the clones, Miyaki decided. Tsuriji, you and your ANBU unit go and stop those guys. Or else we'll get blindsided. Right away, ma'am. Tsuriji replied. Everybody, go. Suigetsu and I will help the giant toad take care of the summons, Miyaki suggested. Naruto-san was the one who helped Maesama take down Yagura, and his teammates don't lack skill nor power either. They're our best bet against these Akatsuki. Alright then. But don't think I'm going to be happy with just the leftovers while the Konoha ninja have the real fun. Suigetsu replied, as he and Miyaki went to face the giant ox. Meanwhile, the Konoha ninjas, Utakata and Hataru decided that they have had enough of being on the receiving side, and went on to the offensive. That man is able to absorb ninjutsu attacks. I'll keep him distracted while the rest of you deal with the other one, understood? Hinata asked. Everybody else nodded. Whatever you've planned, I can assure you it won't work, Pain confidently stated. We'll see about that. Hinata replied, as she dashed towards the ninjutsu-absorbing Akatsuki, while delivering a palm strike forward. The Akatsuki jumped backwards, and Hinata's palm ended up hitting the ground, producing a small crater. You won't be able to dodge the next one, since you're within my divination range. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Just as Hinata said, the Akatsuki was unable to dodge the Hyuga clan signature taijutsu combo, and was pushed backwards with each palm strike as he tried in vain to dodge it. Now is our chance, attack at once. Naruto commanded, as he started to make hand seals. Utakata, Hararu and Haku nodded, prompting to do the same. Ice release, multiple icicle piercing shots. Water release, wild water wave. Water release, bubble jutsu. Lightning release, lightning stab. Haku conjured and shot forward multiple ice stakes, while Hataru exhaled a powerful stream of water from her mouth. Utakata blew several innocuous-looking bubbles, while Naruto pulled out several kunai, infused them with electricity and tossed them forward. Even the most veteran jonin would have felt at least a bit distressed upon being on the receiving end on so many elemental ninjutsu. However, Pain was above any average ninja, and was about to show why. Pathetic, Pain said, raising an open palm at the incoming elemental barrage. Shinra Tensei. Pain's open palm produced a repulsive shockwave that was easily able to repel, and in the soap bubble's case, prematurely detonate, the incoming attacks at him, and still keep enough force to push the casters and make them fall on their backs. Such power! Hataru shouted, midly distressed. If all of us together aren't able to overcome that jutsu of his dash, watch out. Naruto called out, pointing upwards. Everybody looked in the direction the blonde was pointing at, and saw Konan looming above them. Paper drizzle. Flapping her makeshift wings once, a barrage of razor-sharp paper tags rained from them. The ninjas below her quickly rose to their feet and scrambled to dodge the deadly shower, with each missing projectile stabbing itself into the ground as if it was made of sharp metal. Not bad, Konan stated, her face remaining neutral. Now let's see if you can OOF. Suddenly, Konan was slammed into the ground by an unseen force, her body making a loud noise as if it crashed down. Konan! Pain yelled, expressing some sort of emotion for the first time since the fight began. I am fine, Konan said, coughing a little, as she got back on his feet. What did she did, Pain finished her question, as his eyes drifted to Hinata. So, that's the power of the Tensigen. Impressive, but still inferior to the Rinnegan. You know the Tensigen? Hinata asked. One of our newest members possess a pair, Pain replied, causing Hinata to tense. I believe that you already met him, didn't you? So it's true. That Tonari guy is somehow part of the Akatsuki, Naturo muttered, mostly to himself. Indeed. I have been unable to test the extent of his powers, but given that you have the same eyes as him, an assessment of your abilities will be a valid substitute, Pain stated. Alright then, I'll show you the power of my eyes. No, my power, Hinata replied, as she started to make hand seals. Tensigen Chakra Mode. Hinata's body started to glow with a purple aura. Pain looked unimpressed. Not that she expected any other reaction, given that it was the most basic stage of the mode. However, the next part would tip the battle in their favor. Now, Hinata placed her hands as if holding an invisible object. A sphere of lavender light formed between them, and started to grow as she moved her hands outwards. Truth-seeking balls. The violet sphere split into two smaller ones, before losing their light, revealing two fist-sized black spheres that reflected a dim purple light. As if they had life of their own, the spheres placed behind Hinata's back. Just two? I was hoping I could produce more when the push came to shove, Hinata inwardly lamented. With Naruto-kun unable to use his Sage mode, it falls on me to carry the weight of the fight. Despite her disappointment, her display did impress the Akatsuki. Truth-seeking balls? That's not something you see every day, Pain praised. Congratulations, Hyuga, you now have my attention. Very well then. Take this. Hinata said, as she motioned both hands forward. The truth-seeking balls launched themselves at Pain while spinning around each other. Pain raised his hand forward, but rather than a Shinra Tensei like Hinata was expecting, several black rods fired from under his sleeve. Two of those rods collided with the truth-seeking balls, deflecting them backwards. If he knew that truth-seeking balls can nullify ninjutsu, then he knew his shockwave wouldn't work, Hinata realized. But how did those rods repel the balls? It should be impossible. Unless wait a minute, where did he go? The short time Hinata took to muse, Pain launched himself forward, with a longer rod in his hand. But she wasn't his prey, instead, he was now onto Utakata, ready to sink that black rod inside his flesh. A loud metallic noise was heard, and Naruto was standing between Pain and Utakata, his rod being parried by the blonde's wind blade. My wind blade is able to cut through pretty much everything, Naruto pointed out. Just what the hell is that thing made of? Good one, Naruto. Keep him like that. Utakata said, as he jumped backwards while taking his pipe to his lips. Water release, drowning bubble jutsu. Utakata flew a flurry of bubbles, which quickly converged around Pain's head, encasing the Akatsuki's head in a spheric blob of water. The effect was immediate, and the orange-haired Akatsuki started to suffocate. Pain! Conan shouted, as he dived to assist her partner. Not so fast, miss. Hataru claimed, as she quickly formed hand seals. Water release, water hail jutsu. The suddenness of the attack forced Conan to fall back, much to her first ration. And now that Pain was vulnerable, Haku decided he should better speed up the process. He leaped at Pain while his hands flew through hand seals. Ice release, breath of winter. Haku exhaled a gust of extremely cold wind, covering Pain in frost but, most importantly, freezing the blob of water the Akatsuki's head was encased into. After a few moments of weakly trashing and trying to break the ice, the Akatsuki fell on his back, lifeless. His chakra vanished. Hinata pointed out. He's dead. Yes. Naruto cheered, pumping a fist into the air. Huh, so much for the Rinnegan. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble, and the Konoha and Kiri ninjas were startled to see more giant animals coming their way. This time, they were a giant, multiple-headed dog, and oddly enough, a giant panda. There were other two Akatsuki on top of each animal's head. One of them had long, orange hair tied in a ponytail, multiple facial piercings, and the Rinnegan. The other hardly looked human to begin with, and just like Hinata said, his appearance reminded one of a puppet. He also had facial piercings and Rinnegan eyes. Watch out! The giant animals charged at them, forcing the Konoha and Kiri ninjas to scatter. Taking advantage of this, Conan took Pain's corpse, and jumped away. You have seen nothing yet, was the last thing they heard Conan saying. Even if we defeated Pain, it seems that these guys can act on their own, Haku observed. You're no closer to defeating me than you were at the very beginning of this fight, the Akatsuki with the ponytail said, sounding as if he was also Pain even if his voice was different. So this guy is Pain too? How is that even possible? Utakata asked, as he looked at the other Akatsuki, the one who looked like a puppet. All of them are Pain then? We fought an Akatsuki member that had 5 hearts, split among 5 bodies, each with a different elemental affinity, Hinata recounted. That's why the Akatsuki are so dangerous. They aren't merely strong ninja, they possess abilities that defy both logic and morality. That means that we need to kill all the Akatsuki with Rinnegan eyes to defeat the actual Pain, Haku deduced. The Rinnegan is truly an astounding power. You have no idea, kid, the ponytail Pain said, as he nodded to his other self. The puppet Pain raised an arm against them, which split in two to reveal what appeared to be a cannon. Light particles started to gather around the cannon's end, forming a ball, before being released as a beam, producing an explosion when it hit its targets. However, once the smoke dispelled, the Akatsuki could see that the Konoha and Kiri ninja were okay, protected behind a strange black mass. The mass then shrank and reformed into a pair of spheres, and placed themselves behind Hinata's back. You seem to forget that truth-seeking balls can nullify all kind of ninjutsu, Hinata stated. Suddenly, her expression became one of panic when her Tensigen caught something a second too late. Utakata-san. The startled Jinchuriki felt something wrapping itself around his body, before being pulled upwards by an invisible force. Sensei! Hataru screamed, as she futilely dashed towards him. Hataru-san, wait! Hinata called, grabbing her by her arm. There's another summoned animal there. One who can turn invisible. As if to prove Hinata right, a giant chameleon made itself visible. Like all of Pain's bodies and animal summons, the giant Rapital also had Rinnegan eyes and several black thick stakes stuck on its body. Oddly enough, its tail ended in a snake head. But we need to help Sensei. Hataru urged. Don't worry, Hataru, I can get out of this mess by myself, Utakata confidently stated. His cheeks then puffed before releasing a corrosive acid from his mouth, spraying the chameleon's tongue with it. The chameleon hissed as it retreated its hurt tongue into its mouth, releasing Utakata in the process. As he fell, the Jinchuriki blew more bubbles from his pipe. Water release, explosive bubbles. The bubbles started to gather around the giant reptile, and as the name of the jutsu implied, the bubbles exploded upon touching its skin. The chameleon hissed further in pain, before the damage forcefully unsummoned him, leaving a cloud of smoke behind. Yes. That was so great, Utakata-sensei. Hataru gushed, happy to see her beloved master safe and sound. Don't celebrate yet, Hataru. I got rid of one enemy, but there are still many others left. Utakata told her, almost in a chiding tone. As if on cue, the giant animals charged at them. Ponytail Pain stayed where while Puppet Pain jumped from the head of the giant centipede in order to engage the enemy ninjas himself. His left up opened up in multiple places, revealing hidden missiles that he fired at the Konoha ninja. Scatter! Naruto commanded, as he made several hand seals. Wind release, cyclone vortex. Naruto poured as much chakra as he could into the attack, creating a huge wind vortex that sucked all the incoming missiles inside it, and made them prematurely explode. The giant dog headed towards Utakata while the centipede lunged at Naruto, who was wide open. Fortunately, the giant canine was stopped in time by Gamaken, while a giant needle pierced the giant arthropod multiple times, trapping it in a tangle of ninja wire. And got ya! Suigetsu boasted, as he pulled the ninja wire with all his strength, in order to keep the multiple-legged animal in place. I'll bring it down in one hit. Haku claimed, as his hands flew through a particularly long sequence of hand seals, clapping his hands in the end. Ice release, Sword of Winter. Suddenly, the temperature abruptly dropped, and a blizzard started to blow, slowly covering the area in snow. A few seconds later, several gigantic icicles fell from the sky, impaling the centipede through several areas, forcing it to cancel the summon, disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Way to go, Haku! Naruto cheered. This jutsu still have enough momentum for more, Haku added, his palms still together, as his sight moved onto the giant dog fighting Gamaken. Toad-san, move out. Gamaken jumped backwards just before more gigantic icicles impaled the dog as well. But much to everybody's surprise, rather than dispelling it like it happened with the arthropod, the dog split into multiple copies of itself. What the hell? Naruto asked in shock. Gamaken tried to fend off the pack of monstrous dogs, but in the end, the poor toad was overwhelmed. I'm sorry, Naruto, Gamaken croaked, as multiple jaws bit into several parts of his body. I'm still more clumsy than I thought, and the giant toad disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Their prey gone, the giant dogs looked at Naruto, and chose him as their next prey. I'm not afraid of you, you overgrown mutts. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A clone of Naruto popped into existence. Both the original and the copy flew through a different sequence of hand seals. Let's see how much you like this combination. Naruto said, as he prepared his attack. Cyclone Vortex. Fire Release, Flame Bullet. Naruto created a tornado aimed at the dogs, while the clone blew a fireball into the cyclone, creating a massive twister of fire which caught most of the dogs inside it. However, some of them managed to dodge it or escape with some minor burns and chase the blonde. It seems we won't be able to defeat this summon the conventional way, Utakata observed, before his gaze locked onto the pain who summoned it, now perched on a tree branch. But there are more ways to get rid of a summon. Like defeating the summoner, right? Hataru asked. Utakata nodded, and smiled at his apprentice. Exactly, now let's go. Alright, go after him, we'll try to keep these goddamned mutts at bay. Naruto said, as he made his favorite hand seal, creating a multitude of clones. Hataru took the initiative, making several hand seals. Water Release, Water Gun. Joining her hands with both index fingers aiming at the pain with the ponytail, Hataru fired water missiles from her fingers. The summoner Pain jumped from the branch he was standing on, and continued running, trying to dodge the water projectiles, powerful enough to blow holes in the tree's bark upon hitting them. As he jumped, he motioned his arm towards Hataru, firing several black rods from under his sleeve that blocked the water shots. "You're wide open now," Utakata said, as he ran to close the gap between him and his enemy. Water release, bubble jutsu. Utakata blew a barrage of explosive bubbles at the now unprotected Pain. However, before the jutsu could make contact, the portly Pain appeared out of nowhere, landing between his fellow self and Utakata's attack, and absorbed all the bubbles before they could even explode. "What the?" Utakata asked, jumping back before his orange-haired enemies could counterattack. "Didn't Hinata-san deal with this guy already?" At that moment, Miyako leaped from one of the surrounding trees, helmet splitter in both hands, ready to hack the chakra-absorbing Pain to bits. Her ambush was seen by the summoning Pain, but he wouldn't be able to warn his partner in time. "Die," the blue-haired swordswoman said as she lowered the axe half of her weapon. But much to her surprise, the chakra-absorbing Pain dodged her blow without even turning around, almost as if he had eyes on his back, or a Byakugan. Still, Miyaki didn't cease her onslaught, and continued to deliver blows to the portly Akatsuki. As that happened, Puppet Pain re-entered the battle. A compartment opened on his arm, deploying a metallic cannon, which fired a massive stream of flames at the Jinchuriki of the Six Tails and his apprentice. "Too broad to dodge. Counter it with a water jutsu," Utakata ordered. Hataru nodded, and the two of them formed the same chain of seals. Water release, wild water wave. Master and apprentice expelled from their mouths a torrent of water, Utakata's being larger, which managed to successfully stop the Akatsuki's fiery attack. However, the brown-haired man noticed Hataru was starting to pant heavily. "Hataru, are you okay?" Utakata asked. The dirty blonde girl needed a second to answer. "I am, but," she wheezed. "My chakra is starting to run low," Utakata nodded, remembering that normal people don't have the immense chakra reserves and seemingly unending stamina Jinchuriki posses. Even if he could continue fighting, the battle would become much harder to win if his allies started to drop off. Glancing back, seeing the Konoha ninjas fighting the giant dogs, which kept multiplying, he could see that the ice release ninja was also breathless. That huge jutsu from before must have taken a good chunk of his chakra. As this happened, Miyaki continued fighting the chakra-absorbing Pain. It seemed he got tired of just dodging, and pulled a black rod under his sleeve. A loud clang echoed through the forest when the axe half of the helmet splitter was parried by said chakra rod. Miyaki's lips curved into a wide, extremely smug smirk. "Sucker," she laughed. She quickly slammed the hammer half into the backside of the axe. The result was the black rod shattering, unable to withstand the sheer force of the attack, and the axe embedding itself into the Akatsuki's chest, killing him instantly. "You guys won't have to worry anymore about your ninjutsu being absorbed," Miyaki triumphantly said. "This one won't trouble us anymore." "Good job, Miyaki-san," Utakata praised. "Though do make sure he's dead." He recovered from a seemingly lethal attack before. Suddenly, Hataru's opened wide, as she pointed somewhere forwards. "Sensei, watch out." "More summons incoming," the blonde girl shouted. Utakata turned around and saw that, indeed, the summoning Pain had finished the summoning jutsu seal sequence. Summoning Lightning Release, Lightning Flash Arrow. A blue flash happened, and the next instant, the summoning Pain was impaled by a huge arrow made of electricity. The Pain barely had time to try to understand what happened, before he fell to the floor, lifeless. He was followed by his currently summoned animals, which all instantly vanished, leaving a poof of smoke behind. Turning from the direction the impossibly fast arrow came from, Utakata and Hataru saw Hinata, perched on a tree branch, holding a composite bow with glowing seals carved on it and a string that appeared to be made of chakra. "Another one down," Hinata said, as she folded her collapsible chakra bow. "Now only half of the panes remain." "Good job, Hinata-hime." Naruto praised his girlfriend. "Yes. Victory is within our grasp," Haku replied, smiling, before his eyes rested on the puppet-looking Pain. "Dealing with this enemy will be easy. Then we can move to help the Kiri-Anbu with the other two and Konan. If they stayed behind, I deduce it's because they aren't suited for direct combat." "I believe you're right, but Hinata said, before she interrupted herself when her Tensigen caught something from the corner of her vision. "Haku, watch out." The warning came too late, and the ice ninja was impaled by several black rods that were fired out of nowhere, with such force that they pushed Haku backwards, as if he had been kicked by a giant beast, until his lithe body was slammed against a large tree. Haku, both Naruto and Hinata screaming in unison, with the Hyuga flying towards his position. "Don't worry, I'll help you." "I don't think so," a familiar, chill-inducing voice said. Basho Tenin. While in mid-air, Hinata was pulled with incredible force towards Pain, the one with the gravity-based powers. The one who should be dead. His strong hand gripped against her throat. "How?" the Hyuga managed to ask. "Do you honestly think you can kill a god?" Pain asked, as Konan landed behind him. Despite such boastful question, his tone wasn't one of smugness or superiority. "Tonari requested me that, should our paths cross, I spare your life, for you're dear to him," Pain said, as another black rod appeared in his other hand. "However, his foolish romantic desires are secondary to our goal, so I made no promises." And then, Hinata followed Haku's fate, her gut being impaled by the black rod, before Pain lazily tossed her body away. A pool of blood started to form around her. "Hinatano," Naruto said in a whisper. His body tensed, as his hands clutched into fists. "How dare you, how dare you!" Naruto began. His eyes turned red with slitted pupils. His teeth and nails grew longer and sharper, and his cheek marks became bolder. A red aura started to form around his body. "How dare you!" The aura took the shape of a fox, with two tails forming behind him. The grass around his started to burn as a strong wind started to blow in every direction. "You made him mad, Pain," Konan observed. "This will make things much harder for us." "Not necessarily," Pain countered, as he extended his hand, his fingers curled as if they were holding something. "Stand back, Konan, I'm going to do it." Pain opened his hand, revealing an object the size of a small marble, colored pure black. As if it weighed nothing, it started to elevate into the air the moment Pain released it. Just at that moment, the feral Naruto charged forward. Chibaku Tensei. The earth started to rumble, as chunks of the ground were teared apart and pulled towards the black orb in the sky, as well as fallen branches, pieces of wood, leaves and anything light enough not to resist the gravity pull. Unfortunately, human beings were in this category. Naruto's charge was abruptly cut as he was pulled upwards. Claws made of red chakra grew from his fingers, and used them to remain attached to the ground, while slowly advancing towards Pain, resisting the gravitational pull, fueled by sheer anger alone. "Yes. This man hurt your friends, and want to exterminate your kind," the Nine-Tails voice said within him. "Now take my power. Give in to your anger. Make sure he won't be able to hurt you again." The Jinchuriki let out a feral, inhuman roar that chilled the blood of all of those who heard it, except the orange-haired Akatsuki, who remained as stoic and nonplussed as ever. "Your power is incredible, Nine-Tails. But the power I wield transcends even that of a tailed beast," Pain boasted. Naruto's anger grew each second, and with it, the power coursing through his veins burned stronger. A third tail formed along the other two, as his eyes turned solid red. Burns started to spread across his body. And then, Something distracted him from the blinding fury that compelled him to go towards Pain and tear him to shreds, Hinata and Haku's bodies, flying towards the forming planetoid. He saw Hinata's eyes. Her Tensigen still glinted with a white light. Could that mean that Hinata was still alive? No. Don't let her distract you. Your girlfriend is dead. Pain killed her. Now revel in my power in order to become strong enough to kill him. Let the anger guide you, the Kyuubi commanded, his voice growing increasingly desperate. But the tailed beast's voice didn't have the intended effect on Naruto. The number of tails went down to just 2, and as the anger within Naruto subsided, his focus became more clear, and making his choice, let the gravity well pull him as well. No. Don't do that. If you do it, you will die, the Kyuubi called. Of course, Naruto had no intention to die. He used the rocks flying towards the planetoid as stepping stones, until he reached Hinata, and wrapped her between his arms. He then did the same with Haku, which he used his 2 tails to grab him, before he tried to take them away from the forming planetoid. Unfortunately, as Naruto did this, he was unable to provide aid to the Kiri ninjas, not even in the form of shadow clones, as his mind was too focused on saving his friends and teammates, while keeping the 9 tails from poisoning his mind. Oh shit! Suigetsu yelled, as he was pulled towards the forming sphere of rocks. Overcoming the shock and panic, Suigetsu threw the swaying needle towards a tree, and maneuvered the attached ninja wire as to wrap it around its canopy, creating an anchor. Hang on there. Miyaki replied, as she stabbed the axe half of the helmet splitter into a nearby tree, in order to anchor herself as well. Everybody, grab onto either Suigetsu or me. Unfortunately, there was somebody unable to anchor themselves to the ground like the others were doing, and was pulled towards the forming planetoid. Hataru screamed, as she was pulled upwards. Hataru! Utakata shouted. The Jinchuriki of the 6 tails instantly leaped to her rescue, letting the gravitational well pull him as well in order to gain speed, and using the flying chunks of earth and ground as stepping stones, just like his counterpart from Konoha had done so moments before to save his comrades. Got you! Utakata said, as his fingers clamped over the young woman's wrist. Sensei! Hataru screamed again. Just hold on. Don't worry, I won't let you go. Utakata promised, as he began to now move away from the gravity attack, still using the flying stones as improvised platforms. However, at that moment, butterflies started to appear, fluttering around the tall brown-haired man, as if they were unaffected by the gravity field. A feeling of dread washed over him as more and more butterflies gathered, some of them perching themselves on Utakata. Then, the former Kiri ninja learned 2 things, neither of them good. First was that those butterflies weren't real, but origami figures. And second, that they weren't made of ordinary paper, but of explosive tags. Which led to a third, more distressing revelation: he wouldn't be able to get rid of the explosive butterflies while holding Hataru. 2 options were now in front of him, but he took no time to make his choice. To him, it was obvious. His hand reached his pipe. Hataru, I can't save the both of us, Utakata began, as he took the pipe to his mouth. More butterflies gathered around him. In the past, I would have chose my life over yours in an instant, but that was before getting to know you better. I'm glad that you were so persistent of being part of my life, and that I ended up giving up and let you in. Now I see that I could have been a better teacher, but I think I have time for one last lesson. Utakata blew a rather large bubble, which he used to encase Hataru inside it. The bubble managed to resist the gravitational pull and slowly floated away from the danger, much to Hataru's incessant protest. No, sensei, don't do it. Hataru screamed, as tears fell down her cheeks, while she futilely banged the surprisingly hard wall of the bubble with her fists. Live, Utakata said, a small smile formed in his lips. Enjoy life to its fullest, don't be chained by the past, and make sure that when your time comes, you can look back and smile knowing that you have no regrets. Sensei. Utakata's last words were followed by a chain of explosions, engulfing the unlucky Jinchuriki, before his unmoving body was pulled by the gravity core. Conan quickly flew towards him and intercepted him before he could become part of the still-growing planetoid, which was large enough to partially block the sun. "Are you sure he's still alive?" Pain asked. "Those were quite the explosions." "I'm positive," the blue-haired woman replied, as she landed beside her partner, with the burned and unconscious Utakata on her arms. "I know the amount of force I have to use to neutralize a Jinchuriki without killing him." "You!" Naruto yelled, as he landed in front of them with a loud thud. The two-tailed chakra cloak burned with intensity around his body. "Do you think I'm going to let you go away with him?" "What do we do, Pain?" Conan asked her partner. "Should we capture him too?" "I think for the time being, we should stay safe and retreat with the one we have captured." Pain's raised hand curled into a claw. "But don't worry, Nine Tails, your time will come as well." "Bastard! You're not going to dash." "One last thing, tell Jiraiya-sensei that I send our regards," Pain replied, before quickly motioning his outstretched hand down. "Jiraiya-sensei?" Naruto asked, dumbfounded. The shock caused by such statement was enough to stop him on his tracks. A few seconds, he finally realized of the situation he was in. A massive rock was falling down on both him and all his friends and partners. Though judging by Suigetsu's screams, it seems that they had noticed and were taking the steps to avoid being crushed to death, while Hotaru slowly floated away inside a large bubble. He was about to run, though not back, but forward. He couldn't let Pain get away with Utakata. But before he could resume the chase, he realized of something. Hinata and Haku. They're too wounded to run by themselves. They'll die if that thing falls near them. Naruto distressingly thought. Glancing one last time with hate-filled eyes at the retreating Akatsuki, Naruto turned around, and rushed towards where he had left his friends and teammates, hoping that they would be safe while he and the remaining ninja finished the fight. But alas, this time victory would go to Akatsuki as well. Sometime later when Naruto woke up, it was nighttime already. He had very vague memories of what happened after the man-made asteroid hit the ground. The blonde guessed the Nine Tails chakra combined with the exhaustion from the battle made him lose consciousness. And once again, his thoughts went to his teammates and girlfriend. Hinata. Haku. Naruto yelled, as he quickly rose up, not even realizing he was lying down a moment ago, and started to frantically look around in panic, his eyes still adjusting to the growing darkness. "Where are Calm down, Naruto," a female voice gently said near him. "They're besides you, and safe." Naruto realized that Miyaki was crouching beside him. Looking to the other side, he was Hinata and Haku, both of them unconscious, lying down on white sheets. Despite how pale and sick they looked, the fact that he could see their chests heaving up and down was reassuring. "We tried to patch them up as best as we could, but they're in need of medical assistance," Miyaki explained. "Sadly, our group of ANBU has no medic nin. Utakata," Naruto said, now that his mind was at ease, relatively speaking, when it came to Hinata and Haku's status. "They got away with him. And he isn't our only loss," Miyaki sadly added. "Tsuriji died in the fight, as well as one of our ANBU. By the time we can mount a rescue mission, Utakata shall be dead. This mission has been a massive failure." Naruto couldn't help but nod in frustration, before his eyes once again rested on the sleeping forms of his girlfriend and friend. They had been very close to lose their lives today. Even if Naruto knew that Akatsuki was a dangerous enemy, he always believed that the assault squad was powerful enough to beat them no matter what. That childish notion, no doubt engorged by their past victories against them, had been shattered when the rogue organization decided to dispatch one of their heavyweights. Through the corner of his vision, the blonde saw Hotaru, sitting on the grass, hugging her knees against her chest, her sad eyes lost into nothingness. Shaking the pain, Naruto stood up, walked towards her, and decided that maybe she should say something to the distraught girl. "Hey," Naruto awkwardly greeted the girl. Are you okay?" She took a few moments to answer. Her voice sounded cracked. "Yes, I am, thank you. But Utakata-sensei is not." Naruto didn't say anything, and sat beside her. While Naruto was sad for losing a fellow Jinchuriki, this girl knew and probably loved Utakata on a more personal level. "It would have been better if I weren't here," Hataru sadly said. "What? Why do you say that?" Naruto asked. "It was my fault sensei got captured. He was busy saving me, so he couldn't save himself," Hataru explained, her eyes starting to swell up with tears. "If I wasn't so weak, if I were a better apprentice to him, none of this would have happened. He was right trying to push me away from him." "No," Naruto replied, surprised by the volume of his voice. "Don't you dare to think that. It wasn't your fault that Utakata got captured." Despite Naruto's choice of words, it was obvious to the girl that her sensei was as good as gone. Akatsuki are the only ones at fault here. They're the ones who took Utakata away. That's why we must do everything in our hand to stop them before more innocents suffer. "I'd like to do that, but," Hataru began, sobbing a little. "I'm not that strong. I'd only get in the way. My uncle was right, being a ninja was just a childish whim. I should better return home." "It's that what you truly want?" Naruto asked. "No," she replied. "But what else can I do?" "What do you want?" the blonde repeated. "I want," Hataru began, fighting back the tears. "I wanted to be a ninja. To be strong, to be able to take care of myself, as well as protect others. That's why when I met Utakata-sensei and saw how strong and skilled he was, I did all I could to make him teach me." Naruto smiled a little. "Hey, those are pretty good reasons to be a ninja. Plus I saw you fight and you're really good. Why let Utakata's teaching go to waste? Continuing your ninja training could be a good way to honor his memory." Hataru looked at Naruto a bit surprised, before her eyes shrank a little, and her lips formed a sad smile. "I guess you're right. But what can I do? I no longer have a sensei. You can get a new one." "There's always time to become a ninja," Naruto kindly said. "The offer from before still stands. The gates of Konoha are open for you if you want to join us." "That's very generous of you," Hataru thanked him. "But for the time being, I need some time alone to do some thinking, to grieve Utakata-sensei, and plan what I'm going to do next." "Oh, okay," Naruto replied, as he stood back to his feet. "But try not to wallow in grief too much, okay? Utakata would have wanted you to move on with your life." "I know," Hataru nodded. "Thanks for the talk." Naruto nodded, and walked away. He heard Suigetsu and Miyaki talking about how they'll head back to Kirigakure with the first light of dawn, and that they'll have to make sure all the wounded were taken care of. Though the blonde quickly lost interest in their mundane talk, the last thing the Akatsuki said before leaving with Utakata replayed in his head. "Tell Jiraiya-sensei that I send our regards." As Naruto pondered those words, an image appeared in his mind. A picture of his dad, only much younger, with 3 kids, a redhead, one with orange spiky hair, and a girl with chin-length blue hair. He didn't remember where or when, but he saw such picture in his house, some time ago. He had dismissed that picture as just another trio of genin his father had trained in the past. Now he was completely sure 2 of those kids were the same Akatsuki he just fought. "Dad, what did you hide from me?" Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained. Stay safe.